for the 2026-2027 financial year, the responsibilities of the national government and the county governments pursuant to such allocation and for connected purposes. Order number 11, the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 51 of 2024, second reading.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 51 of 2024, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, this is an old bill which was published as among the 4 bills that emanated from the Finance Bill of 2024. Honorable Speaker, you remember when we did the Finance Bill of 2024, the bill was a very big bill, and probably that is why it suffered a lot of misinformation and heavy disinformation, both on social media, on the mainstream media, and even amongst ourselves, Honorable Speaker, as leaders. Many of us, either inadvertently or deliberately, misinformed the public on the provisions of the Finance Bill of 2024. And I must be thankful, Honorable Speaker, to the Finance and National Planning Committee, which has considered this bill after it came from the Senate, because this was one of the 4 bills. You remember we did Business Laws 1, Business Laws 2, the Tax Amendment Bill of 2024, and the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill of 2024. And the Business Laws 1, Honorable Speaker, is what we call Business Laws 1, was many of the non-financial or non-tax matters that touch on business laws that did not touch on counties. And then we segregated those that touched on counties, and we had this bill begin in the Senate. And I say I must be thankful to the Finance and National Planning Committee, because they have taken this bill through public participation, engaged with stakeholders within a very short time after it came from the Senate. But the Senate, Honorable Speaker, has taken an inordinately long period to consider this bill, because having been published in December of 2024, it has taken a year and a half to get back to us. Honorable Speaker, I was just mentioning to members of the House Business Committee this lunch hour that this is why some of us are very keen on bills, especially money bills, and most of those touching on finance and appropriations, not going to the Senate. Because you can imagine if this had financial implications to the country or touch on appropriation, and a bill takes 1.5 years to be considered, we would then be appropriating money to government agencies 2 years after. And to countries, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, this bill, as I said, were some of the provisions that were in the Finance Bill of 2024 that had absolutely no tax implication, but sought to institutionalize the registration and seamless facilitation of foreign direct investments within our borders and also within our counties. And for instance, Honorable Speaker, you remember, even when we were debating the Finance Bill of 2024, we were saying that very many businesses are being forced to pay levies and fees across counties, yet these are businesses operating within the same country. And you remember issues that had been raised, and I remember back in 2024 when Kimani Kuria was moving the Finance Bill, giving the example of branding of vehicles, commercial vehicles, that you run a business in the city county of Nairobi, and you have branded your vehicle and you have paid for that branding in the city county of Nairobi. But when you go to deliver goods in the city county, not in the city county, in the county of Machakos or the county of Kiambu or Nyandarua, where Honorable Gachagua comes from, the member for Ndaragwa, the county government of Nyandarua, where the good Honorable Gachagua, member for Ndaragwa, comes from, the Gachagua, the good one, also levies charges for branding of the same vehicle. And therefore, we make the cost of doing business very expensive for our businesses, our local businesses, and even for foreign direct investors who are coming to invest in our country, because some will establish maybe in Mombasa, but have to get their raw materials from the from up country or from Nairobi, and they are forced to pay levies in every county that you go through. Consider a tea packer who is probably based in Mombasa, was buying tea from Kericho, transporting it through the counties of Kericho, Nakuru, Kiambu, Nairobi, Makueni, Taita Taveta, Kwale, all the way to Mombasa. And they are forced to pay levies at every levying station they find across the entire corridor. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, this bill seeks to streamline and also accelerate government services for investors by introducing what are centralized physical and digital service hubs. So that where you have a service hub in the county of Nairobi that is centralized, you do not need to have the same services being levied in Machakos, Kwale, Taita Taveta, all the way if you are moving goods. And therefore, this bill is indeed working to not only help the local business people, but also to make the ease of doing business cheaper in our country, and therefore make our country a very attractive investment destination for even our foreign direct investors, and therefore create job opportunities for many people in our country. The bill also intends to optimize timelines under the affordable housing frameworks to protect investments and ensure structured, timely land transactions. And again, Honorable Speaker, you know we have had issues in some counties where structuring of affordable housing has become a problem, especially around the question of approvals and validation of housing plans. Some counties, Honorable Speaker, and I don't want to name any counties, but they know themselves because we all come from counties. I can see a number of members here who have problems with their governors. Counties are making the investment in housing, and not just affordable housing, a near impossible task. Because whether it is their county inspectorate departments or their planning departments, they make the approval of building plans and even actual construction of housing a near impossibility because of corruption, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the latest example is that of an officer in Nairobi County who was arrested by EACC officers holding millions. How much was it? I think almost 60 or 65 million shillings in his own house somewhere in Machakos County. Honorable Speaker, these issues are issues that are not just in Nairobi County, they are across our entire county. Therefore, we want to make sure that with these business laws, Honorable Speaker, we optimize the timelines within which investments are being done in our respective counties can be approved, how you structure even land transactions, Honorable Speaker, because the counties are involved, for instance, if it's issues to do subdivision, the issue of sub-lease titles or the sectional titles, laws, Honorable Speaker, that we are able to expedite all these things in a timely manner. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the core contents of the bill, again, we seek to revolutionize the investment promotion, and under the Investment Promotion Act, Clause 2 replaces the old frameworks with a very progressive regime focused strictly on registering foreign direct investments and accrediting specialized investor facilitators. So that again, Honorable Speaker, you have seen incidents where foreign direct investors or people who seek to bring investment in this country are conned by conmen who impersonate government officers, and therefore Clause 2 speaks to some of these issues, and we'll be able to streamline our foreign direct investments, and we use accredited specialized investor facilitators, not just every Tom, Dick, and Harry purporting to a facilitator to our foreign direct investors. We will have specialized investor facilitators. Honorable Speaker, Clause 3 mandates that anyone facilitating foreign direct investors must be formally accredited by the Kenya Investment Authority to curb unregulated middlemen, and these are the brokers, Honorable Speaker, I was speaking to, people who masquerade as facilitators for direct foreign investors. And you know, foreign direct investors or foreign investors, because they may not be familiar with the terrain of our investment climate in the country are taken advantage of by people. Therefore, it will be clear to any foreign direct investor who's coming to invest in the country that they have people who are authorized by the Kenya Investment Authority to be able to do this work to facilitate them. Honorable Speaker, in mainstreaming remote work and business process outsourcing, the amendments that touch on the Employment Act, maybe I should have mentioned that this is almost an omnibus bill that has amendments, as I said, to the Kenya Investment Authority, Kenya Investment Promotion Act. It has amendments that touch on the Employment Act. It has amendments that are touching on affordable housing and land, as I mentioned, amendment to the Anti-Counterfeit Authority. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, in mainstreaming remote work and business process outsourcing, if you members look at clause 10, it redefines employee and employer under the Employment Act to fully recognize remote workers, specifically those operating under BPOs and IT-enabled arrangements. Because, Honorable Speaker, you know, the old Employment Act, or the old times, Honorable Speaker, employment had to be physical employment where you have a letter of appointment, you have a contract, you have a physical address where you are working from. But in today's world, Honorable Speaker, with business process outsourcing and the remote work environment, you do not necessarily now need to have an appointment letter from anybody, or a contract, or even a physical address where you work from. You can actually work remotely, and with COVID in 2020, Honorable Speaker, a lot of our workforce moved to remote work, and many other Kenyans now are working under business process outsourcing. And therefore, we must be in a position where we facilitate all these new areas of employment to ensure that our young people in the country are able to access employment, those that can work remotely. And I say this, Honorable Speaker, from experience. I have a young man in my family who for the last 4 years has been working remotely. And I visited him the other month in his apartment on Riara Road. And he has actually converted one of the bedrooms into a fully fledged office. And when I visited him at about lunchtime, hoping to find lunch, I found him asleep. And he told me he had slept that morning at 7 a.m. because he works at night. And that is the innovation, Honorable Speaker, that our young people in this country are taking advantage of, the innovative ways of getting employed across the globe. Somebody is working for a company in the US remotely. Because of the time difference, they are working at night. And therefore, we must create laws that now recognize them as employees who are employed under the Employment Act, and also facilitate those who are in the business of business process outsourcing to be able to hire a workforce from this country without being hindered by the archaic laws that we had under the Employment Act. Honorable Speaker, again, Clause 12 amends the Occupational Safety and Health Act to ensure that legally defined workplaces explicitly cover remote locations. As I said, people now can work from their homes, people can work from other remote locations. You are working for a company in the West, but you are working from your house in Ndaragwa constituency in Nyandarua. And that speaks also, Honorable Speaker, to the need to enhance our investment in the national superhighway on fiber connectivity so that we ensure that every corner of the Republic, Honorable Speaker, people are able to work remotely. Anti-Counterfeit Authority to declare what is counterfeit and what is not counterfeit. Honorable Speaker, you know, it caused immense pain, especially to many traders in Nyamakema orders, and whatever is being disposed must be governed by environmental standards, so that even things that may be detrimental, like battery cells, that must be disposed in a certain way, then you make sure that they are disposed in that manner that is environmentally safe and following court orders. Clause 23 drastically escalates the anti-counterfeit penalties, making offenders liable to fines of up to 2 million shillings and 3 years imprisonment or both, to ensure that nobody deliberately brings in counterfeits that are detrimental to the health or the safety of the citizens of Kenya. And should you contravene, Honorable Speaker, you'll be liable either to a fine of up to 2 million shillings or 3 years imprisonment or both. Honorable Speaker, if I touch on, I've spoken a bit on the clauses that touched on affordable housing and land timelines, and Clause 13 amends the Affordable Housing Act by integrating crucial new definitions into the Act, legally protecting structures like Sharia-compliant financing administration fees. Clause 14 significantly accelerates land transaction timelines under the affordable housing by reducing a chargee's statutory notification period from 90 days to only 45 days. You now don't need 90 days, you only need 45 days to be able to charge your affordable housing units. Clause 15 establishes that a chargee must respect a tight 20-day timeline before exercising the power of sale of property under an affordable housing scheme, so that you must have a statutory timeline of at least 20 days before you exercise the power of sale. If a chargee or a financial institution that has advanced money to a citizen to buy an affordable housing unit, you must adhere to this very strict timelines, so that again, because these affordable housing units are being sold to people who would otherwise not have been able to ever own a house. Should maybe someone lose their source of income, maybe you lose your job, financial institutions will not be in a rush to auction your property and you lose your property. We therefore want to protect citizens to make sure that they are not auctioned at will by our banks and other financial institutions that we have opened up, including the microfinance institutions, which under the Central Bank Amendment Bill, we have opened them up to also be able to finance many of these affordable housing units. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, this bill contains very vital provisions that cut across county governments, regulate critical business operations, and act as a necessary money bill to bolster national growth. Honorable Speaker, as I had mentioned, many of those amendments also touch on inter-county, intra-county business flow and flow of trade. And Honorable Speaker, as I said, the Committee of Finance and National Planning considered this bill. The Trade Committee, under the able leadership of the member for Aldai and the Honorable Shinali, also considered this business laws. And they have made sure that we remove many of the barriers of trade that are there between our counties, so that we have efficient flow of trade in our counties and in our country, even as we seek to encourage our foreign direct investment investors, or those who seek to invest in our country using foreign direct investments. Honorable Speaker, I now want to beg you that you allow me to move this bill to allow other members to contribute. And I would like to request the Honorable Vice Chair of the Trade Committee, the Honorable Member for Aldai, Marianne Keitanyi, to second this bill.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to second the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 51 of 2024. And as I second, Honorable Speaker, we need to appreciate that the business environment in this country has to be improved. I know it is good, but we have to improve it more. And in that process, we are looking at investments that come into this country and those that are currently running within this country. Starting with the businesses that are within this country, we know that there are businesses that run across counties. And sometime last year, we passed a bill, which is now an act of parliament, that is called the County Licensing Bill, that looked at making sure that there is seamless business operations between or across counties. This particular amendment then further improves that particular area by ensuring that there are information sharing across counties so that businesses can seamlessly trade across businesses. In terms of investment promotion, especially for investors and businesses that are coming into this country, we expect or we would like that these people do not meet otherwise brokers or people who would take advantage of them, by ensuring that the people who bring direct foreign investment are registered by Kenya Investment Promotion, to ensure that all these businessmen and women who come into this country get a good working environment. The issues of employment is also not left out, because a lot of work that is being done by many of our young people, especially under the BPO, require a lot of legislation to ensure that they are not taken advantage of as they are running their businesses. Issues to do with anti-counterfeit. I think anti-counterfeit or counterfeited products have found their way, a lot of it into the country, and that affects real genuine businesses and disrupts business operations. So the amendments to the Anti-Counterfeit Act also allows that those products that are seized because they are anti-counterfeited are managed in such a way that they don't get back into the country. There are many issues also, including issues on affordable housing and land timelines, because as we can see across the country, we have affordable housings that are going on. And most of these affordable housing projects are done in properties that are ideally supposed to be counties, and the licensing between counties and the national government to ensure that that particular plot of land is available for affordable housing, as well as the sale of these affordable houses to the public, then this particular amendment will allow that the chargee process is also reduced from 90 days to 45 days to allow also that all these young people who have invested in affordable housing are able to then take advantage of those houses and be able to enhance their business operations. I think the bill comes at a better time, because it allows businesses generally in this country to be able to trade and to be able to work in a way that will bring not only income to this country, but also enrich the businessmen and women who will be dealing in this business. And I stand to second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 51 of 2024, be read a second time. Members who want to contribute, kindly press the intervention button. Honorable Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me also to make a comment as I stand to support this bill, the Business Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 51 of 2024. As I do so, Honorable Speaker, we need to bring some facts to bear, very, very clear. Honorable Speaker, a number of the bills acts of Parliament being amended fall within the purview of the Committee of Trade, Industry and Cooperative, and I want to go on record and have asked the Office of the Clerk to confirm those provisions were never submitted or presented to the committee to review and undertake public participation. And I beg to be forgiven if it turns out not to be correct. I will withdraw, because I've asked the Office of the Clerk. I'm not aware that it was ever presented to the committee for public participation and processing as required under the standing order.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, just to inform the Honorable Oundo, as I said when I was moving, this bill had been considered for public participation as part of the 2024 Finance Bill by the National Planning and Finance Committee of the National Assembly. You remember then we split those into four bills. This bill, the provisions of business laws, what we christened 2, went to the Senate, and public participation was actually done by the Senate. And in line with what we had agreed to ensure that we conform to the Constitution on prudent management of public resources. When public participation has been done by one house, we do not repeat the same public participation. And actually this bill has gone through public participation at 2 levels in the National Assembly, since all the provisions here had been taken through public participation. The report is there, you can confirm it had gone through public participation in 2024, and the Senate also did public participation.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Records will stay for itself. We'll review and let the members of public decide what to do with that kind of information. Honorable Speaker, allow me to touch, first of all, for a start, to touch on the provisions relating to counterfeiting. Yes, the Counterfeiting Act. And the Counterfeiting Act, Counterfeiting Act. Honorable Speaker, the bill proposes to make drastic changes to the way the authority undertakes its function. One of the most telling change that the amendment bill proposed to do is to define the word disposal. Actually, Honorable Speaker, and this we need to be very careful, they are proposing to change from destruction to disposal. Because ordinarily, once the counterfeit goods are seized, the current act requires they must be destroyed. Once they have been determined to be counterfeit, they have gone through the process, they are required to be destroyed for destruction. The bill at hand here, Honorable Speaker, it says we need to delete the term destruction and use the word disposal. And this is what I want my colleagues to listen, and I want everybody who cares to listen. Disposal now means alienation, donation, conversion, and destruction by any means, or alienation by way of donation of sales or counterfeit goods, depending on their nature, effect on public health, and natural resources. Honorable Speaker and members, colleagues, you need to be very careful. What this is saying, in essence, that once goods have been determined to be counterfeit, they have been seized through the lawful process, there could be a back door, how they can find their way back into the market by way of donation. Honorable Speaker, we then, in essence, we have killed the spirit. We have literally killed the fight against counterfeit, the fight against harmful products. Honorable Speaker, that's a matter, as a country, we must have a very honest discussion to ensure that we deal with it. Second, Honorable Speaker, the provisions relating to Investment Promotion Act. Honorable Speaker, it proposes to establish a broker or a facilitator to facilitate registration or a certification of an FDI, foreign direct investor. Honorable Speaker, there's nowhere where the qualification, academic or professional qualification of the so-called facilitator is provided. Honorable Speaker, I remember in the 12th Parliament, the MP for, I think was Makueni, where Honorable Mutuse now holds forth, Dr. Musimba, brought a legislative proposal calling for a lobbyist bill that would have actually allowed anybody to lobby any government department, to lobby anyone for purposes of undertaking some business, to ensure some business is undertaken. Honorable Speaker, without a proper definition of brokers, of a facilitator, a person who seeks to engage in business facilitator for direct investors, Honorable Speaker, we are creating a dangerous situation. We are creating brokers with bad and good intention altogether that are going to destroy this particular country. Honorable Speaker, last weekend, there was talk that, this has happened all over, where some brokers, some conmen would normally approach people, carry them and take them to government offices and broker non-existent deals and non-existent tenders and leave people having lost money substantially. Honorable Speaker, I do believe we Kenyans must be very careful as we try to make things run, in a haste to make things run, but we create a monster that's going to destroy the very essence of business management in this country. The other provision, Honorable Speaker, is the provision under Clause 6 that makes the repealing Section 8 of the Investment Promotion Act and substituting with the following. An investment certificate once issued shall not be transferable to another person. Honorable Speaker, we are again creating bottlenecks. We are creating bottlenecks. You remember very well, this country remembers well. We were unable to conclude the extraction or exploitation of the oil in Turkana because Tullow Oil Company ran into challenges, technical challenges, financing challenges, and the process of transferring until we got the new arrangement took very many years. If an investor who has gotten a certificate to undertake any business in this country and has run into technical challenges, we must make the transfer process seamless, subject to fulfilling some kind of procedures or rules altogether. But to basically indicate that we don't, such cannot happen, is literally to kill the spirit, probably in which the bill is anchored to facilitate direct foreign investment and to facilitate trade in this country. Clause 11B is much welcome, which really makes a one-stop place for any investor. And I'm happy that's both physical and digital, and I can see them, my friend the MP for Dagoret, is it Dagoret South or Dagoret North, Honorable Kiari, this comes his area of interest to digitize processes, but as we digitize, I hope there's sufficient safeguards and security measures to avoid misuse of information. Probably as we do this, we must put also cognizance the Data Protection Act to ensure that we get things running through. Honorable Speaker, the bill as well, under Clause 8, limits the number of permits that can be given to outsiders. It limits to 6 to shareholders and partners, 6 to work permits for management and technical staff. Honorable Speaker, we must also ask the following question. Does it mean we don't have technical staff in this country? I think this country has invested immensely, and I think at the Committee of the Whole House, we must move an amendment to make it mandatory that only such kind of permits can be issued where there is no people or Kenyans with equivalent qualifications and experience, so that Kenyans continuously get jobs. We don't want to get to such a stressful position that we are seeing in South Africa at the moment, where the locals rise up against Kenyans. I'm told there is an ongoing influx of Burundians in this country that are taking up many of the jobs that Kenyans have been doing all along, and it's going to cause another issue. Honorable Speaker, there are further amendments to the Employment Act, and I want to draw the attention under Clause 10 that seems to redefine who an employer is. That extending that definition, that's going to become extremely dangerous as we move forward. An agent, a foreman, especially an agent, has been categorized as an employee. An agent has been categorized as an employee. So that means even if I've got a separate arrangement with an agent, with a proper agent's agreement or contract, that becomes an employee, in which event you must as well provide all the benefits and take liability for any act of an agent, even if that agent works for multiple employers elsewhere in the country. So, Honorable Speaker, as much as this bill is laudable, I would request whichever the lead agency that is entitled to look at this, they need to look at very clearly, so that to make sure that we protect the interests of the Kenyans, we make sure we protect the lives and health of the people, we avoid stories whereby we do things that are going to harm our people. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, the majority leader has raised a very fundamental issue of duplication of public resources to undertake public participation by both houses. And I hope, Honorable Speaker, now that becomes like what we would call case law, will never be taken to another round of circus that was especially a case, let's do a separate case. In short, I support.
Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also stand to support the Business Laws Amendment Bill, which is in essence an omnibus bill that seeks to amend a couple of acts of parliament in line with what the mover did say in regards to the current situation and what has happened within the finance bill. Honorable Speaker, I just want to specifically mention a couple of clauses that I feel are very important to us and to the people of Kenya. The first one, Honorable Speaker, being the issue of the Investment Promotion Act, which when you look at clause 6 to 9, has clearly outlined the amendments that are being proposed therein, one of which being maintenance of the register and also ensuring that there is provision for a comprehensive centralized facility where registration can actually take place, and also collaboration with other public institutions. Honorable Speaker, the other very important amendment that we have is in line with the Employment Act, and in particular clauses 10 and 11. And just as Honorable Oundo has clearly outlined, this is very important, especially because we now have a comprehensive definition of what an employer and an employee is, including, Honorable Speaker, to people who work within the technology enabling environment, and also to people who work on-site and off-site. And Honorable Speaker, I know this is one area that the chair of CII is very happy about, because we've had very many conversations and engagements about the gig economy and how, as Parliament, we can seek to ensure that we are supporting the gig economy. Because nowadays, Honorable Speaker, a lot of people are doing either one or more jobs, or they're actually working away from home, not on site. So, Honorable Speaker, this is very, very important for them, because now the definition actually covers the areas that are relating to them. Honorable Speaker, if you also look at the clause 9, which speaks about the Occupation Safety and Health Act, this has also ensured, especially on clause 12, that it has realigned and redefined the employer to be in line with the previous clauses that I have talked about, so that now they are properly aligned. And also, Honorable Speaker, there's a comprehensive definition of a workplace to include land, premises, on-site, remote locations, including on a vessel, because, Honorable Speaker, there are instances where people actually work in a vessel that is moving. So this for them is very important, so that in matters relating to occupation safety and healthy, then in essence they are covered. Honorable Speaker, another set of amendments that are very comprehensive and very important is from clause 16 through to clause 24, which talks about the Anti-Counterfeit Act and the various issues that have actually been mentioned there. Honorable Speaker, one of the issues that I really want to emphasize on is when you look at clause 19, part C, which then gives a comprehensive definition of what we call disposal, because we were only focusing on just one particular term, which is destruction. But now disposal, Honorable Speaker, seeks to ensure that the harmful commodities that are within the market, that there is proper disposal of this, that they are seized, they are detained, and where applicable, removed for detention, any tools which may be used in the manufacturing, production, and making or packaging of these goods. Honorable Speaker, this is very important, because just destruction of the counterfeit goods is not good enough. We also need to have a system in place where there's actually a proper investigation into what is contained in these particular goods. Honorable Speaker, just to cite the example that was given earlier by the Majority Leader in terms of some of the products that are used by not only ladies but also men as well, is that this definition then really assists us to make sure that within the market, within Kenya, we are protecting the consumers properly. And so, Honorable Speaker, the business laws that we do have in place are very important. There are quite a number of them, quite very detailed, but also very significant for all of us. And for those reasons, Honorable Speaker, I support and I submit. I thank you.
Thank you. And before we proceed on, I'd like to recognize the Nandi County University Students Association from Nandi County, who are seated in the public gallery. On behalf of the substantive speaker and myself, we welcome you to the presence of Parliament. Thank you. Honorable Zamzam.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kuunga marekebisho ya mswada huu ulioletwa bungeni ibara 51 ya mwaka 2024. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni dhahiri kuwa mapokezi ya mswada huu marekebisho nimepokea vizuri sana Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu makusudi yake ni kunyoosha hasa tukiingia katika mfumo wa dijitali ili kuweza kuangalia na kuweka ile data kamili, tujue nani anaingiza mzigo katika taifa, wale ambao wanataka kufanya biashara katika taifa hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, wamepewa mwafaka vizuri wa kuweza kujua na kufanywa wepesi wa kujiandikisha kwenye makampuni tofauti tofauti. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia katika special economic zone mambo ya kuleta miundo misingi na mambo mengi sana ya biashara. Mheshimiwa Spika, juzi na jana tumeenda kupata mafunzo Singapore. Mheshimiwa Spika, na kule tumepata mfumo wao wa kidijitali. Mheshimiwa Spika, imeweza kuwapa malengo mazuri sana mpaka imeweza kuvutia wawekezaji wengi sana wa makampuni tofauti tofauti katika Singapore, ambayo ndio imewapa mwanya mkubwa sana wa kuweza kufanya biashara, kufungua biashara tofauti tofauti, na biashara zikifunguliwa watoto wa kule wamekuwa wakipata kazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa muda mrefu Kenya tumelia ukosefu wa ajira, lakini ni kwa sababu sisi tulikuwa hatuna mfumo mzuri na ule ambao unaweza kuwavutia wale wawekezaji. Lakini mfumo huu ambao umewekwa katika hino bill, Mheshimiwa Spika, kama mswada huu, ni mfumo ambao unaweka wazi, unaonyesha kuwa hakuna siri zingine mbovu ambazo mwekezaji aweza kuwa na uoga wa kuweza kuwekeza hapa Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo mimi nikiangalia hata pale Dongo Kundu tunahitaji wawekezaji wengi sana waje, na pengine ule mfumo uliokuweko mwanzo ulikuwa unaweza kuwaregesha nyuma sana wawekezaji wengi. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini wamewekewa wazi kabisa bayana kuwa hapa unaweza kuangalia uweza kuleta kitu gani, ukauza nini, na ukajaza katika njia elektroniki na ukaweza kujirejista katika Kenya na ukaleta biashara. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia pia Mheshimiwa Spika, wameweza kunyoosha mabenki yetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa wengine wanafanya mambo ya ujanja ndani ya benki. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini naona umepatia nguvu Benki Kuu ya Taifa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ili kuweza kuangalia hizi benki ndogo ndogo waweze kufuata sheria vile inavyotakikana. Mheshimiwa Spika, ambalo ni jambo zuri sana. Na ukiangalia pia wale ambao walikuwa wakitoa mikopo kwa watu hao ambao mnawaita lenders, hao ambao wanafanya kama microfinance. Mheshimiwa Spika, Wakenya wengi walikuwa wanahangaika sana, lakini katika mswada huu imeweza kuwasaidia Wakenya. Watakuwa wanaelewa kuwa hapa, hata kama Banki Kuu itakuwa inawaangalia wale, watakuwa wanajua hapa Mkenya amekosewa ama amekiwa sahihi, iko sawa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo najua kutokana na mswada huu hata wale microfinance pia wataweza kuwapa Wakenya heshima yao na kuweza kufanya kazi kama vile sheria inavyotaka. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, pia inafanya wepesi wa biashara ama trade kuweza kuwa na uwepesi zaidi sana katika bili hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, zamani ilikuwa watu wanatumia kanjanja, njia ya nyuma. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukawa tunapata hata kuna wakati tumepata sukari, mchele, mara ya plastiki, ile kuchunguza inakuwa ngumu. Mheshimiwa Spika, haijulikani nani alileta, lakini katika mfumo huu Mheshimiwa Spika, inaweka wazi kuwa hata yule mwanabiashara atakuwa anaonekana katika sheria wazi. Ukiingia tu kwenye dijitali unaangalia, unajua huyu ameleta nini, nani muhusika mkuu wa biashara fulani. Mheshimiwa Spika, na Mheshimiwa Spika, kama walivyozungumza wenzangu hapo mbele, mimi naona tu niunge mkono, kwa sababu mambo yaliyoko hapa kwenye hii bill ni mambo mazuri sana tena sana, na hasa kupatia nguvu Central Bank ya Kenya ama Banki Kuu ya Taifa kuweza kuangalia na kufuata sheria ili haya mabanki mengine yasiweze kuvunja sheria. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia Mombasa County tumekuwa mpaka na mjane ambaye amekuwa akilalamika, Mheshimiwa Spika, hajui akaunti yake ilitolewa vipi pesa, mume wake alikufa, lakini mtu akafanya filfinyange yake, akatoa pesa za mume wake. Sasa amekuwa baina ya koti na kujificha, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu mfumo haujakaa sawa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini kitu kama hichi, sheria ambayo inaletwa, na nilisikia Mheshimiwa kiongozi wa wengi akisema 2024 wale ambao walipinga hiyo bill hii ilikuwa ndani. Wajua Mheshimiwa Spika, kitu kizuri kikijificha ndani ya vitu vingine ambavyo havijakaa vizuri sana, mambo hutokea kama haya. Lakini maadamu imeletwa hapa, tunaweza kuipiga msasa, na mimi naweza kuisupport Mheshimiwa Kuria. Hii ni kitu kizuri, kama mama county wa Mombasa, mimi naipiga support na nasema ni bili nzuri. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Honorable Kimani Kuria.
Honorable Speaker, I ran into a risk of trying to give a point of information to the honorable member in Swahili, and then I'll have to make my contributions in Swahili, and then I'll be stuck. So I think I'll just make my contribution on what I want to do, a point of information to the great member for Mombasa County in English, and tell the honorable member, these are some of the issues that it's very important I brought to this House. It is important that you write, you seek a statement, and it comes to State Department, to the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, so that we can make central bank to be accountable in the supervision of those banks. What the honorable member is saying about withdrawals being made on members' account on commercial banks without the authority of the customers, it's something that is very widespread. We are seeing a lot of that in social media, and we must bring that to the end. And because you have given central bank powers to bite through the many amendments you've done to the CBK Act, by giving those powers, honorable member, I want you to bring that request to this House, so that we make sure that that vulnerable customer gets her right and gets her money refunded.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa ndugu yangu Kuria. Ni kitu ambacho kimenisumbua sana, na huu mjane amelia sana miaka mingi, mamilioni ya pesa ambayo yameenda hivi. Na mimi nashukuru umenipa nguvu ya kuweza kuileta hapa, manake mwanzo nilileta ikawa imepotea pale table office, haikuweza kufika. Kwa hiyo nitaifuatilia ili niweze kumsaidia huu mjana anaitwa Mama Jaizan aweze kupata haki yake, manake mume wake amekufa na pesa zilitolewa, hundreds of millions zilitolewa kwenye account, na sasa bado yatishiwa mpaka maisha. Kwa hiyo bili hii mimi naisupport sana, na nasema umefanya kazi nzuri kama kamati. Asante sana.
You may proceed, Honorable Kimani Kuria.
Thank you very much, and I want to guarantee the honorable member for Mombasa, you know, like the leader of majority said, this Senate Bill number 51 was taken to the Senate in 2024. It has taken that honorable House 1.5 years to process a very simple bill of like 5-6 pages. And now we are wondering, what if they were to process the many bills we process in this House? We probably will end up with an end of an election cycle without seeing any single bill being processed by that House, Honorable Speaker. So I want to assure the Honorable MP for Mombasa that we shall, if you bring the statement tomorrow, we'll give a response by the time we are coming back from recess. Honorable Speaker, this omnibus bill is seeking to modernize Kenya's legal and regulatory framework to create a more competitive, transparent, and investor-friendly business environment. Honorable Speaker, it's important to mention that this is aligning well with international best practice, investments facilitation, regulatory efficiency, and digital economy governance. These principles, Honorable Speaker, are the ones that are championed by the UN Conference on Trade and Development. They are also that are championed by the World Bank's doing business methodology and successful investment agencies in countries that we emulate in terms of investment, good investment policies like Singapore, Mauritius, and United Arab Emirates. Honorable Speaker, this bill is a perfect example of the promise the Kenya Kwanza administration made to Kenyans, that the administration of this government will be based on its manifesto. And Honorable Speaker, one of the greatest manifestos that when we're doing the economic agendas across the county was the issue of ease of doing business, was ease of investment in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, this bill shows that this administration is not just making promises on its manifesto, but is making laws, is making policies that implement its manifesto agenda after agenda, Honorable Speaker. And perhaps this is what differentiates this administration from the previous administrations that have been based on ethnic mantras. So where every election is a few kingpins, if we call them, combined together and decide this is how we are going to go. By the time we are going to the next election, the party composition has changed, the leadership has changed, and then a different agenda has taken force, Honorable Speaker. This shows the commitment of the Kenya Kwanza administration of making policies and laws that implements its Kenya bottom-up transformation agenda, Honorable Speaker. This is going to reduce bureaucratic hurdles, provide a regulatory framework, protect workers and consumers, and position Kenya as a preferred destination for quality foreign direct investments. Honorable Speaker, the facilitation of a one-stop shop model is going to establish a centralized, and it's important to mention it's going to be both physical and digital. So we're going to have a both physical and digital facility for all investor services. And this, Honorable Speaker, is a proven test best practice record used by top performing investment promotion agencies worldwide. Honorable Speaker, it's going to have a clear criteria for foreign direct investment registration, investment certificates, reducing discretion, and enhancing investor confidence. Gone are the days where now you'll have to know somebody in the office, Honorable Speaker, to be registered or to be licensed as an investor, because this law is providing that seamless legal framework that differentiates investors from Honorable Speaker and gives them even investment certificates showing their commitment to investment in our country. Honorable Speaker, it's going to have balance, speed, and safeguards. It's going to accelerate processes, especially on the matter of affordable housing, while maintaining protection for workers, consumers, and environment. Honorable Speaker, the issue of intellectual property has been talked about here, Honorable Speaker. We've seen in previous administration where counterfeit goods were just banned without any warning to the business people, Honorable Speaker. And most of the time, the businesses were found in a way, Honorable Speaker. You will see recently, Honorable Speaker, we have been treated to a few shows, Honorable Speaker, of legitimate brands. You know, a few of the international legitimate brands, Honorable Speaker, have now opened shops in Nairobi. And Honorable Speaker, Kenyans have been wondering now what brands they've been wearing because the prices of those brands have been very different from what we buy from the markets, Honorable Speaker. So some of the time, these business people, they are found not because they deliberately buying or trading in counterfeit products, but because they didn't know, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, there are now safeguards that ensures even in the event that you are trading in counterfeit products and you did not, Honorable Speaker, there is legal redress that is given to you, Honorable Speaker. The bill is introducing accreditation of investments facilitators with clear procedures, penalties, and which is going to promote professionalism and accountability, Honorable Speaker. However, after continuous assessment, Honorable Speaker, and public participation, our committee will be recommending that we have a reporting requirement for this particular investment certificate holders, Honorable Speaker. We're going to require the investors to tell us, since you have given them these incentives to work in our country, since you've given them these licenses, since you've given them this preferential treatment as investors, how many employees have they employed? How many products have they manufactured, Honorable Speaker? What technology transfers have they done to our local, Honorable Speaker? Because, Honorable Speaker, we've had, for example, this big problem, especially in SEZs. Well, Honorable Speaker, we have SEZ registered persons. And then when you go to that SEZ, it's just empty land. Honorable Speaker, they are reporting huge investment deductions, they're reporting huge taxes, Honorable Speaker, only to realize that they're not making any contribution to our economy, Honorable Speaker, by thus being as a tax haven, Honorable Speaker. This one-stop facility is going to be a centralized, as I said, both physical and digital. It's going to cover business registration, tax customs, immigration work permits, county approvals, utilities, SEZ admissions, environmental compliance, among many others, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this reminds me of the legendary invention of Huduma centers, Honorable Speaker. Before the invention of Huduma, before the creation of Huduma centers, you needed to go to one office for a birth certificate, for another one for a marriage certificate, for another one for an ID, for another one for a voter's card, Honorable Speaker. But the invention of Huduma centers revolutionized how Kenyans receive their how individual Kenyans, Honorable Speaker, received government services. Honorable Speaker, this Invest Kenya offices, therefore, Honorable Speaker, will be the new Huduma Centers of investors, Honorable Speaker. So the revolution that Huduma Centers did, Honorable Speaker, is what we hope that this particular Invest Kenya offices, Honorable Speaker, will do to our business people and to investors. Honorable Speaker, the issue of employees has been talked about, and the definition of employees as per the Employees Act. Honorable Speaker, the issue of business process outsourcing is now the new era of employment globally, Honorable Speaker. You know, companies have established that their business, if my business is, for example, to sell in a is a retail business, Honorable Speaker, like a supermarket, the owners of this business have realized that it's not their business to police which employees get late, who does not perform very well, who leaves early, Honorable Speaker, whose maternity leave is coming up, whose paternity leave is coming up, who is holding for Honorable Speaker. And they have now told that business, and we have now very many successful businesses that are doing the business of just employee handling, Honorable Speaker. And it's very important, therefore, that we redefine or we cause now a different definition of who an employee is in the Employment Act so that to reflect this new reality of business process outsourcing, and also remote location working, Honorable Speaker. But it's also important, Honorable Speaker, as we do that, we also define what workers are going to be put in place to make sure that these remote location employees, Honorable Speaker, are not also subject to abuse, Honorable Speaker. We have enough safeguards in the Employment Act on leaves, on holidays, on working hours, Honorable Speaker, and therefore it's also important, even as we introduce this amendment to allow business process outsourcing to the definition of employer, to make sure that also these remotely employed employees enjoy the same rights as the physically employed employees, Honorable Speaker. On the issue of affordable housing, the shortening of the timelines from 45 days to 20 days, Honorable Speaker, is very important because it's going to accelerate delivery. However, Honorable Speaker, it's also important that we look at how this may not be exploited, Honorable Speaker, especially for vulnerable household, Honorable Speaker, so that we ensure that there is a balance between that service delivery, Honorable Speaker, and is not subject to abuse, Honorable Speaker. On the issue of counterfeit, there is now going to be introduction of seizure and disposal of non-compliant goods and introducing a stronger penalties of up to 2 million shillings or 3 million shillings in payments, Honorable Speaker. As I said, the seizure has now to be supported by a court order, and even if there is disposal, then that disposal must be environmentally sensitive, Honorable Speaker. You know, there is a joke that was happening around when some counterfeit, not counterfeit, some drugs, Honorable Speaker, I think it was, I forget which drugs were found, and then they were burnt down. And then the officers who are supervising the burning of these drugs, Honorable Speaker, were just standing next to those drugs, Honorable Speaker. And now you can imagine now that means they were smoking those drugs, Honorable Speaker, that they were purporting to dispose. So it's very important that we safeguard the environmental sensitivity, Honorable Speaker, even when we are disposing some of these products, Honorable Speaker. Again, this is going to make sure that we protect our environment. Overall benefits, Honorable Speaker, on ease of doing business, this bill is going to reduce redundant bureaucracy through the one-stop facility and clearer procedures. It's going to ensure there is greater predictability and transparency in foreign direct investment processes and regulatory requirements. It's going to ensure there is lower transaction costs and time for investors and businesses. There's going to be a modern labor framework that supports digital economy growth while upholding worker protections, Honorable Speaker. And it's also going to ensure there is stronger IP enforcement that safeguards innovation and investment. And lastly, it's going to ensure there is targeted acceleration of strategic sectors, especially affordable housing and FDI facilitation, Honorable Speaker. So my call for action, Honorable Speaker, on this particular bill is that this bill is representing best practice legislative reform that will reduce red tape, enhance transparency, modernize our laws for the digital age, and make Kenya a more attractive destination for quality investment. It directly improves our ease of doing business while protecting Kenyan workers, consumers, and national interests. I urge members to support the bill at second reading and during the Committee of the Whole House so that we can deliver tangible improvements in our business environment and accelerate economic transformation. Honorable Chairperson, in as much as now we're involving counties in terms of on this licensing, Honorable Speaker, it's important we give them responsibilities, Honorable Speaker, because what you've seen also counties do, where particular functions have been carried over by national government, then you have county governments giving it a bath, Honorable Speaker, and therefore making it even more difficult, Honorable Speaker. And lastly, it's also very important that this House allocates enough resources, Honorable Speaker, to this new entity so that it carries out the expanded mandate, Honorable Speaker, that's doing. And perhaps now that this bill, with now Senate taking more than 1.5 years to bring this bill back to this House, we might have to through the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the Trade Committee, when if we'll be considering a supplementary budget to make sure that this institution is now well resourced. Because my presumption is the resources that were given to this institution was before the passing of this law, which means before the additional responsibilities that have been given to Kenya Invest. So, Honorable Speaker, let us pass this bill to send a clear signal to investors, local and foreign, that Kenya is open to quality business, it is ready for digital economy, and committed to a predictable, efficient, and fair regulation. That, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support.
Has the question been proposed?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also stand to support the Business Law Amendment Bill 2024 that has originated from the Senate and also tabled by Honorable Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, I also sat in the Committee of Trade, Cooperative and Industry, and we are happy to see this bill, and just consulted with my colleague, and I've been told that it is started 2024. So, and we would like to give our views in the House. But I also just to comment that basically, when you check on the purpose of the bill, bringing this business, bring the business in one center, that is a registration of foreign direct investment and accreditation of facilitators for foreign investors. It is something that internationally is happening, and I'm happy that I also relate with it, Mr. Speaker, because I come from the border in Loitoktok, place around the last place called Taveta. It's called Tarakea. It's our border, and even within the Taveta, there's also another border there. And the benefit people are getting from Namanga on the clearing of goods because of one-stop center that is there, that is being contributed to Kenya and Tanzania, the movement of goods is becoming so easy. Mr. Speaker, at a time that we're trying to bring everything together, because in fact the business bills that operate within the environment of the business, there are so many. So by putting them together, it's going to assist us a lot. And I was trying to check on a bill that, or what is internationally practical. If you check on the omnibus bill in UK, they've also introduced the same thing. This country, in the 13th Parliament, I don't want to say about the other, the 12th and 11th, but the 13th Parliament is doing a lot. I've tried to check even they have even assisted. And I want to tell Majority Leader, this bill is good because it's originated from the Senate. The people who have always taken us behind, dragging us in to make sure the bills are coming faster, is the Senate. Because the other time we started the county licensing procedural bill, whereby we say that a license from Kajiado can be practical in Kiambu, can be practical in Kisumu, can be practical in Siaya, whereby when you clear a good from Mombasa, you don't have a lot of problem in terms of people stopping you in the roads, trying to check on which kind of license do you have. And that one has sorted our issues in terms of transport, and they are very happy. When we check about Huduma Center, the theory behind Huduma Center, as my colleagues have said, it was just bringing all services within one umbrella. And that one has really sorted everything. So I urge this House today that as we are supporting this bill, we clearly see it does not contravene the Constitution or trying to destroy or end the amendments of the Constitution. It's just trying to make it everything simple and precise. The issue of central bank being given the oversight role, expansion of central bank to be given oversight role in the proposed bill, is something, Mr. Speaker, that's very encouraging. Private sector are included. Manufacturers are included. You can go on and on. In the counterfeit, that we have been having a challenge, Mr. Speaker. Importation of goods that comes from outside the country, sometimes we find them, they don't meet standards. But having an authority to control becomes a challenge, Mr. Speaker. We have been under counterfeit authority itself always appears to us as a committee. We try to challenge them. We try to ask them, what are we seeing this in the what does not come in, that is not meeting standard. I remember when the time of the China Square, when we were arguing about the China Square products from China being sold in this country, in this like a product that's supposed to go for, they're getting them cheaply there. We don't know the standard, but now our local traders in River Road, in hawkers, got this advantage. But later, the fight keeps on going. But there was nothing to control them. So having this one, which is international, either physically, you see the bill proposed, it can be physical or digital. Meaning that even if you are bringing things from outside the country or anything that's coming outside the country is in one direction. There's an authority. There are people who are going to be answerable. There are people who can be able to check and report this committee. So the issue of standard and quality is going to be achieved. So, Mr. Speaker, when you look about the issue of housing, the issue of lands, there are so many things that have been captured in this bill, Mr. Speaker, that I urge this House, let us all of us support this bill, and if possible, we move faster on this one because it's really touching across the line of the business atmosphere in our country. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to give me to contribute, and I support this bill. Thank you.
Point of order, Honorable.
Honorable Speaker, I wanted to rise on standing order 96.
Yes.
To seek adjournment of this debate, Honorable Speaker, because of the issues, some of the issues that we had spoken to that Honorable Ondo had also alluded to. The committee is still considering part of this bill, therefore seek the indulgence of the House that we adjourn this debate to a later date to allow us to touch on the competition amendment bill and also the report on the audited financial statements for the 6 state corporations. Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I propose the question that the debate be now adjourned. Honorable members, I put the question, the debate be now adjourned. As many as to opinion say aye. Aye. As many as the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 12, the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026, second reading.
Majority Leader, proceed.
Sorry, Honorable Speaker, I was consulting Honorable Ondo. He's very mischievous at times. I wanted to imagine that we are climbing down on that debate is because we want to also touch on this competition amendment bill that is very critical and also allow the Committee on Trade to finish the consultations that they are doing on that particular bill. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the competition amendment bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, this bill is also still undergoing public participation by the Committee of Finance and National Planning, and therefore from the onset just to indicate that we do not seek to conclude debate on this bill because the committee is still considering the public participation on this particular bill, But considering that we debate the bill, we can begin debate, but we also be seeking at some point, the chair of the committee will be seeking adjournment to a later date to allow us to conclude with debate after the committee has concluded with its engagement with stakeholders. But this is a very important bill, Honorable Speaker, whose key objective is to amend the Competition Act. And you know we have had a Competition Act that has served this country very well. But with emerging technological changes, especially in the digital marketplace, there are certain changes that require further amendments to our Competition Act to ensure that we align our legal framework with the emerging realities in that digital economy. Honorable Speaker, you know, when the Competition Act was done some years back, the digital commerce space was not as robust as it is today. And today we have a very robust digital space, marketplace, and a lot of our people are trading on the digital marketplace. Therefore, you may find that there are also dominant players that are in play in the digital marketplace and are engaging in practices that are against the Competition Act. And therefore, we must align our Competition Act to be in line with the changing technological world. Honorable Speaker, the primary objective, therefore, of this bill is, as I said, first, to have that robust legal parameter that we identify, monitor, and regulate dominant players and intermediaries operating across online platforms, so that even on our online platforms, online marketing platforms, we don't have dominant players who will then edge out any competition, especially from our young people who are using our digital space of digital platforms, or online platforms, to market goods and services, and they may be subjected to a lot of unfair competition by people who are dominant, or bigger corporate players who are dominant. Two, we seek to prohibit the abuse of superior bargaining positions, preventing powerful corporates or powerful corporate actors from exploiting vulnerable business counterparties or vulnerable entrepreneurs who may suffer the fate because probably what you are producing, and this, Honorable Speaker, pertains more so to farmers and those who are dealing with agricultural produce. You may find that there is a dominant buyer of a product that you are producing, and because they almost enjoy a sort of monopoly in the purchase, they then have very unfair buyer practices that are detrimental to the growth of business. Therefore, this bill has provisions that seek to prohibit such abusive superior bargaining positions by corporate players. It also seeks, Honorable Speaker, to execute a critical logical reorganization by relocating and consolidating buyer power regulations under the newly created unfair market conduct framework. Further, it strengthens enforcement capabilities by introducing severe administrative penalties tied directly to a firm's gross annual turnover, so that where a firm or a corporate organization or a business has contravened provisions within this act, the provisions of this act, the penalties will be tied directly to your annual turnover. So the bigger the organization or the bigger the business, the higher the penalty will be based on your turnover. Honorable Speaker, on regulation of digital platforms, I indicated that our digital platforms such as online marketplaces, search engines, the app stores that we all use, and social media platforms are now playing a very significant role in commerce. And while these innovations, Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, have created opportunities and employment opportunities for many people, they have also introduced new risks of unfair market dominance and anti-competitive conduct, where, as I said, you may find one, probably because one is more endowed resource-wise, and they have better search engines, they have better resources to deploy in technological innovations. They then engage in very unfair market practices because they become dominant in the market and therefore edge out any competition. And therefore we want to ensure that even in the digital workspace or the digital marketplace, small players, the people who are selling their wares on social media platforms, those who are using app stores that they do not run the search engines and are paying a small fee to use those search engines, are not subjected to unfair trade practices or unfair business competition, and they can be able to fairly compete with even the bigger market players in whatever industry they are in. This bill therefore empowers the Competition Authority of Kenya to effectively regulate digital market activities and ensure fair competition within the digital space, therefore encompassing that new space of the digital marketplace. Honorable Speaker, in strengthening the other key objective I said is to strengthen consumer protection and also address abuse of buyer power. And in strengthening consumer protection, Honorable Speaker, the bill further strengthens protection of consumers against false or misleading misrepresentations or representations relating either to pricing, the quality of a good, guarantees, sponsorship, and even the origin of goods and services, Honorable Speaker, because we have seen instances where people have a certain preference for goods manufactured in Kenya. And a good is manufactured in another country, part of the, without mentioning particular countries because they are friendly nations, in the Far East, for instance. Because probably the cost of production there is cheaper, they imitate a product that is being manufactured in Kenya or even in Germany or in England. I remember, Honorable Speaker, there are hammers. In the old days when I was much younger, people preferred hammers and cutting saws from those that were made in England. And then people will manufacture those things from the Far East and misrepresent this as having been made in England, made in Kenya. And even our own products, our tea is being imitated and just the branding is put as tea made in Kenya or Kenyan tea, but it's actually not Kenyan tea. It is a blend of probably a very small fraction of Kenyan tea with other teas from other places. And therefore, this bill seeks to protect consumers so that when a representation of a product is made, it is made in Kenya, made in England, made in Germany, it actually is made in that particular place where it has been, is being billed, has been made from. Even unfair things like pricing, people are being lied to. A product is marketed online on a digital marketplace as costing so many shillings. But then when you actually go to order on the platform, it charges you from either your M-Pesa or your card a price different from what was represented. And therefore, this bill seeks to protect wananchi from such exploitation or deceptive practices and unfair commercial conduct. Honorable Speaker, as I mentioned, also the other objective of this bill is to address abuse of buyer power. And as I said, Honorable Speaker, this is one of the key things that this bill seeks to introduce relating to abuse of buyer power. And buyer power, Honorable Speaker, comes in where we have many small suppliers and businesses who continue to suffer from delayed payments, unfair contract termination, unilateral price reductions, and oppressive contractual conditions imposed by dominant buyers. And I gave an example, especially, Honorable Speaker, of the agricultural produce and agricultural products. For instance, and let me just use one of the industries, the beer sector, Honorable Speaker. We have only one beer brewer, serious big beer brewer who is dominant in the economy, EABL. Therefore, they probably be the only significant buyer of barley or sorghum. And therefore, because they are dominant, they are likely, and I don't say that EABL is doing this, I'm just using them as an example, Honorable Speaker, they are likely to have very unfair contractual terms of contractual terminations with small-time suppliers and small-time growers of barley or sorghum. They may be tempted, Honorable Speaker, to delay payments because if in a case where will you take your barley or your malt or your sorghum, if they are not buying it, and the other small players in the market who are not dominant may not have the capacity to buy your produce. And not just that, Honorable Speaker, even Safaricom. Safaricom is dominant in the market to some extent. And therefore, you may be a supplier of certain goods and services that you can only sell or probably in a large quantity to Safaricom or to that dominant player. And I'm using these companies, Honorable Speaker, as mere examples, not accusing these companies of being companies that are entertaining unfair trade practices, because I know they have been dominant but been largely been very responsible in the way they conduct their business. But it is possible that you find a dominant player in the market who then takes advantage of their dominance in the market because they are almost like the sole buyer. Even KPLC, for instance, people who are signing power purchase agreements. Who else will you sell power to in Kenya if not KPLC? And therefore, to protect the suppliers, small suppliers, someone who is producing solar power in northern Kenya, someone who is producing wind energy in Marsabit, someone who is producing geothermal from a small well in Menengai or somewhere else, Honorable Speaker, to protect those people from dominant players, dominant buyers, then we are introducing amendments that under this bill will protect and safeguard suppliers, especially small and medium enterprises, by requiring fair contractual terms and imposing sanctions against abusive conduct by the dominant players. Honorable Speaker, in enhancing powers of the Competition Authority, as I said, there are also amendments that seek to enhance the powers of the Competition Authority. And the bill strengthens the investigative and enforcement powers of the Competition Authority to enable it to effectively discharge its mandate. And the authority will have enhanced powers to conduct market inquiries, obtain information, investigate anti-competitive conduct, and enforce compliance with the law. So that, Honorable Speaker, the Competition Authority doesn't become a toothless bulldog or a toothless dog. It has to be one that can bite. So that if any dominant player, whether you are a dominant buyer or a dominant player in any sector or in any industry, the Competition Authority will now have mandate and powers to conduct inquiries without reference to you or to obtain information from other players in the market, investigate any anti-competitive conduct that any player may be engaging in. And this, Honorable Speaker, will in a great way improve efficiency in market regulation and enhance investor confidence. Honorable Speaker, allow me to digress a bit and also speak to the Competition Authority of Kenya. Because CA, or the Competition Authority, has a very important mandate to deliver to the people of Kenya. And I say this, Honorable Speaker, because this is one authority that also has very huge potential. The Competition Authority, after the passage of this bill, with its enhanced powers, should have no business. And I want to speak to the chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee. CA will have no business coming back to this house to look for exchequer allocations or to look for resource allocations. This is one authority that should be able to generate their own resources through appropriations in aid. And I say this, Honorable Speaker, because I am seeing the potential of the Competition Authority to even be able to generate revenue without us having every now and then to keep reviewing our taxation laws to raise revenue. For instance, Honorable Speaker, I have just seen a transaction between Asahi, a Japanese conglomerate, and Diageo, with the purchase of shares in UDV, the distillers, and EABL shares in Diageo. Honorable Speaker, if you look at what was reported in the media, the value of that transaction alone is in excess of 380 billion shillings. 380 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker, is not a small amount. But it's a transaction that, for instance, on stamp duty alone, we should be able to raise billions for CA and for KRA. And therefore, I want to be asking the chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee to also engage the Competition Authority on that particular transaction to ensure that we will not see again what happened, I think, around 2019, 2020. Many Kenyans will remember when NCBA Bank, what was then the Commercial Bank of Africa, and NIC Bank merged, or rather CBA bought NIC. And in that merger, Honorable Speaker, we saw the unthinkable. A bank or two commercial banks that were making huge profits at a time when this country was ravaged by the COVID pandemic, when we were losing revenue because other businesses were not making money. Out of state capture, we saw in that merger or in that transaction, because the owners of CBA Bank, Commercial Bank of Africa, held the levers of power, political power. Out of state capture, we saw them exempt themselves from paying close to 300 million shillings in stamp duty. I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, because I do not know who these Asahi and Diageos are, because they're all foreigners. But again, we must not see another instance of state capture where people will use such transactions to evade paying taxes. The Finance and National Planning Committee of this House must ensure that all taxes due are duly paid without exemption, Honorable Speaker. You know, Honorable Speaker, we talk about sin taxes when we are taxing beer, or rather alcohol, cigarettes, and such other undesirable things, including betting. But these businesses are there, and they live with us. They are playing their role in helping to grow our economy in payment of taxes. And therefore, we want to encourage all other foreign direct investors who want to come and invest in this industry in our country. But even as they come, Honorable Speaker, because the laws are there are levies or there are fees to be paid to the Competition Authority. Chair, National Finance and Planning Committee, you must ensure that all levies and fees due on this transaction between Diageo and Asahi are paid. What is payable is paid, and paid in full without exemption. We must not see instances like we saw in the other regime, where people are using, and I know you know also some of the owners of EABL, Honorable Speaker, are not small-time people, are not me and you. They are people who have held state power in this country. Therefore, we must ensure that in that transaction, stamp duty is paid. If there is any corporate tax that will be due, it must be paid, and the fees due to CA. And I say this because I want to speak to the Competition Authority. There must be no monkey games in this transaction. I know there are those who attempted, Honorable Speaker. You know, the danger in this country, Honorable Speaker, and I saw one of our officers from Nairobi City County, a young man called Tyrus Njoroge, asking people on a TV show, if you know you are supposed to pay so much in license fees, then you don't pay, you are not compliant. Then you allow city council officers to come and harass you and demand money in cash for you, and you have been told all you need to do is pay your license fees of 20 or 25,000 shillings digitally. You don't even need to transact in cash with anybody in the city county of Nairobi, but you don't pay for your license fee. Then you allow corruption to thrive within that space, because when enforcement officers come, you want to give them 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings. At the end of the financial year, you'll have paid more than the license fee you would have paid. It is the same thing that happens in some of these organizations. And that's why I'm speaking about the Competition Authority. Certain officers in government agencies will now go and tell the investors, what we can do, we can strike a deal. Instead of you paying stamp duty of, say, 38 billion shillings on this 380 billion shillings transaction, we can organize how you will pay a lesser amount, but under the table, give us this much. I want to tell those investors, don't dare. Don't dare. What is in law must be paid as is provided for in law. Only Parliament, and I repeat, only Parliament can vary taxes. National Assembly, not even Parliament, only this House, where I am speaking from. Only the National Assembly has powers under the Constitution and our laws to vary any taxes or to impose or to waive or to exempt any taxes. Not even the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury. That is why every time they need to do something in variation of taxes or fees and levies under the Miscellaneous Living Fees and Levies Act, they have to come to this House. And I say that, Honorable Speaker, because in my other life in business, I also get privy to certain information. That is why I specifically address the Competition Authority to ensure that what is due to Caesar, is it Caesar in the Bible? Yes, what is due to Caesar?
Give unto Caesar.
Give unto Caesar what is due to Caesar.
Yeah.
Therefore, for Asahi and Diageo, what is due to KRA, what is due to Commissioner General KRA, CS Adan Mohammed, please give it to him in full. In full. What is due to the DG, Competition Authority, please pay in full. Honorable Speaker, I just digressed on that because these are things that are live today in our market, and as the guarantors of the people of Kenya to oversight the executive.
You didn't finish the statement. You also give unto God what is due to God.
Oh yes. I deliberately avoided finishing that statement, Honorable Speaker, because these are people who are in the alcohol business. So that is why I restricted myself that they give unto Caesar what is due unto Caesar. I do not know whether they give to God, but probably in their private capacities, or even as an organization, if they go to church or to mosques and give to God, may they also give unto God. But part of the great work, for instance, EABL does in terms of, under the EABL Foundation, they do a lot of good work, and which is also part of giving back to God by giving back to the people of Kenya through their CSR under the EABL Foundation. They do a lot of good work, and I must commend EABL for the great work they have been doing. And that's why I'm saying, even as new owners come into that company, may they carry on with the culture that was there under Diageo, that even Asahi, I know the Japanese people are quite generous, that they continue being generous to the people of Kenya by giving unto the people of Kenya. Because giving to the people of Kenya, these are the people of God, you're also giving to God. And may they give also to God what is due to God. Honorable Speaker, the other thing that this bill speaks to, and I've touched on it, is clarification of merger and control provisions, and the bill updates provisions relating to mergers and acquisitions to capture modern forms of business control and transactions, including those undertaken by foreign entities whose conduct affects the Kenyan market. And that is why I digressed a bit on that transaction between Diageo and Asahi, because these are foreign-owned companies, but their conduct affects the Kenyan market because, as I said, they must pay what is due to us in taxes, pay what is due to us in terms of levies or A for the Competition Authority. And therefore, I don't need to belabor that point. But this is necessary to ensure that the competition regulation remains effective in a globalized and interconnected economy, because we live in a global economy, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, with the enactment of this bill, we will be promoting very fair competition in our marketplace in this country. We will be protecting consumers from exploitation and deceptive trade practices. We also be supporting small and medium enterprises against unfair market conduct, as I said, in the unfair conduct by dominant buyers. We also be strengthening regulation of our digital markets and emerging technologies, and also enhance investor confidence and market transparency, as we also align Kenya's competition framework with international best practices. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, this bill is very timely and necessary in today's world, and it responds to emerging economic realities and strengthens Kenya's legal framework to support a competitive, innovative, and consumer-friendly economy. It is a bill against unfair business, designed to guarantee that the hardworking Kenyan entrepreneurs and the Kenyan consumers, everyday consumer of goods, are fully protected from corporate exploitation or the exploitation by those who are in business. I therefore urge all of us as guarantors of the rights of the Kenyan people and as their representatives to support this bill in amending the Competition Act under this Amendment Bill of 2026. I therefore beg to move, and I want to request the very brilliant and able chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee, the member for Molo, who is a very diligent chair of the committee and a great servant of the people of Molo. A man who, Honorable Speaker, I told you the other Saturday I went to his constituency, and there, when people go there shouting one term, the public in Molo tell them their member of parliament is not one term. He's already done his first, second, he's going for the third term. So the young people, border riders, told me as I went to pick my vehicle that please continue supporting our member of parliament, because he is very supportive of the work of the National Assembly and very supportive of us as his constituents. And we tell those who come to shout one term here that it is them who can serve one term. The member for Molo, Nabokebani Kuria, is doing his third term. He'll be back here doing his third term after he finishes his second term, because some are trying to hate on him or hit on him because of his great work. But let me say, Honorable Speaker, it is rare. And I know because I have been around for some time just like you, Honorable Speaker. And you have been in this house with many members of parliament, previous members of parliament from Molo. Whether you begin from the late Keheka Kimani, whether you talk of Jenga Mungai, whether you talk of the former member Kuna, whether you talk of Mukiri, Jacob Mukiri, the people of Molo have never produced a more brilliant, more focused, and more diligent member of parliament than the Honorable Francis Kimani Kuria. And I don't say this because he has the name Kimani somewhere. I say it because he has been able to exhibit that brilliance, that intelligence, and the commitment to shepherd this country to greater development and prosperity, not just for the people of Molo, but for the people of Kenya. It is rare to find such focused young leaders, Honorable Speaker. Many young leaders in today's world are getting tempted to want to speak to the things they hear out there. And you saw some here speaking about Mutumba things that were nowhere during the finance bill. You have seen some even attempt to apologize to the people of Kenya belatedly because they cannot match the brilliance of Honorable Kimani Kuria. And I want to encourage my brother Kimani Kuria. He is going places. If the people of Molo had doubt, they can hear it from me. And I am older than him, so I know. I beg to ask, with immense respect, the member for Molo to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my senior and my leader of majority, and also for your very kind words. I have learned from the best. Because remember when you came here to this house, I said the other day we became your students, we became your mentees. And every time we would wonder which standing order to stand on, we would come to you and we'll ask which one it is. And you're very generous to tell us who it is, rather than to go to 105 and scrabbling on trying to ask ChatGPT a bit too late, and without specializing whether it is Senate standing orders or. And indeed, leader of majority, the people of Moloch have told me this again and again. They sent me to the National Assembly on a mandate. They cannot all come to this house to debate matters. And so they said, we are taking one of you to go and debate in that house. That's why, Honorable Speaker, I take my time and work seriously at the National Assembly, because that's why I'm sent and that's why I'm paid to work, Honorable Speaker. And there can be, unfortunately, because our work is not as audited as it is, in my previous job, in the field of finance, there were very strict working hours. There were very strict KPIs, and unfortunately in Parliament, that's one of the things we've not been able to implement. Because an important business like today, there are very few members in the House, and there is probably nothing that will be done, and they still be paid very handsomely to work here, Honorable Speaker. But, Honorable Speaker, even before I begin this, on where the Honorable Majority left, you know, my leader of majority, I think we might have to rethink the decision we made on our Director General for Competition Authority, because I think there needs to be restriction of when you need to start campaigning when you want an elective seat. Because now people get appointed into elective office, they're not in office, and they're always out there in the field. But that's not what I want to debate this afternoon, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, imagine one team has 15 players, and the other one has seven players. And the bigger team is allowed now to compete with the smaller team. One team is 15 players, the other one is 17. And because the bigger team is bigger, then they dictate that the smaller team can only play 7 of them. Or imagine if the bigger team kept changing goalposts. You know, when you're about to score, they change the goalposts. Or they said the whistle can only be used on the small team and not the big team. Would that really be a football match? So this is what this amendment to the Competition Authority Act is doing. It wants to make sure that the big team and the small team have the same equal number of players. There is no change of rules in the middle of the game, and the whistle applies to all the teams, whether it is the small team Arsenal or the big team Manchester United. So, Honorable Speaker, Kenya has always been a nation of hustlers and innovators. From the village market to the market to M-Pesa, from the matatu stage to the smartphone, we have thrived by creative opportunity where none existed. But today, Honorable Speaker, a new challenge faces our entrepreneurs. The rise of powerful digital platforms and dominant players who can dictate terms, delay payments, and squeeze the very people who built our economy from the ground up. This bill, Honorable Speaker, is not about punishing success. It is about ensuring that success does not become a weapon used against the smaller players. It is about bringing the spirit of fairness that has defined Kenyan enterprise into the digital age of the modern workplace. Honorable Speaker, we are upgrading our competition laws from the analog era to the algorithm era, while putting a fairness shield around our MSMEs, farmers, suppliers, and digital hustlers. Mr. Speaker, when our young people wake up in the morning and open their phones, they're not just entering a marketplace, they are also entering someone else's territory. The rules of that territory are written by the algorithms they did not code, enforced by terms they did not negotiate, and controlled by platforms they cannot challenge. Today, we are going to bring those rules under the light of the Kenyan law. Mr. Speaker, in Molo and across the country, our farmers and small traders are not asking for favors. They're asking for fairness. When a small supplier waits for 120 days for payment from a powerful buyer, or when a digital platform takes 30% and still changes the rules overnight, that is not competition. That is conquest. The bill says conquest is going to end with this law. Our current Competition Act was written by a different economy, one of factories, physical shops, and traditional supply chains. It was not designed for digital platforms that control access to millions of customers with zero switching costs for the platform, but huge costs for users. It was not made for powerful buyers like supermarkets, processors, exporters, digital marketplaces, who can unilaterally change the terms, delay payments, and demand extra fees because suppliers have nowhere else to go. It was not designed for data advantages and network effects that create winner-takes-most market oversight, markets almost overnight. It was not made for data advantage and network effects that create what the Honorable KJ will call winner-takes-most markets almost overnight. situations where a company does not have 50% market share, but still has enormous power under its counterparties. What does this provide, Honorable Speaker? This bill is providing 4 key pillars. Pillar number 1 is regulating the new digital gatekeepers. We are not against the gates. What we are doing, Honorable Speaker, is installing traffic lights and a fair toll system. We are changing definitions through key innovations in this bill, Honorable Speaker. By, for example, digital activity, introducing words like digital activity, digital marketplace, multi-home, and immediate transaction. We're introducing new concepts like strategic market position in digital marketplaces assessed by network effects, data access, switching cost, and importance as an intermediary, not just traditional market share. This bill is capturing platforms that they may have less than 40% share, but enormous power because everyone has to go through them. Our pillar number 2, Honorable Speaker, is creating a fairness shield and prevent abuse of power and abuse of superior bargaining position, Honorable Speaker. We are giving the small fish a shield when swimming with the sharks without necessarily burning the ocean. This is perhaps the most transformative part of the bill. It is creating a new Part 3A on unfair market conduct and introducing abuse of superior bargaining position as a distinct prohibition. It is protecting counterparties, that is suppliers, small businesses, content creators, app developers, even when the powerful party does not have a dominant market position in the traditional sense. What this prohibition conduct is including is 1, unilateral variation of terms without notice. You can no longer now vary terms without giving a notice. And we've seen, Honorable Speaker, this especially with our supermarkets. You know, where some of the big supermarkets have been receiving goods from small traders, only for them to change the payment terms overnight without even consulting the small suppliers. We are going to prohibit transfer of risk, of cost and risks to the weaker party. You know, where a risk is facing a business, whether it is what the real majority party was trying to big players like ABL, and there's a risk of drought, then they transfer that risk, Honorable Speaker, to the small farmers, Honorable Speaker. It is imposing purchase prices below competitive levels or service fees above competition levels. It's prohibiting unreasonable data collection or obstruction of business activities. And lastly, the authority can now develop code of practice and impose reporting requirements, which is a much smarter and sector-sensitive approach. Our key number 3 that this bill is going to do is faster and smarter enforcement. As it's popularly said, justice delayed in competition matters is justice denied to the hustler waiting for payment. The new Section 91A is introducing administrative enforcement action, which is going to be absolute game changer. There's now going to be written warnings and specific remedial directions. There's going to be administrative penalties up to 10% of gross annual turnover in Kenya, which is recoverable, Honorable Speaker, as a civil debt. It's going to suspend revocation or variations of rights and privileges. It's going to require fair hearings before penalties and going to ensure that due process is protected. Pillar number 4, Honorable Speaker, from this bill is modern consumer protection and institutional strengthening. There's going to be expanded false, misleading representation, which will include withholding material information on quarterly basis. It's going to have mergers definition expanded to cover privatization of state corporations that engage in trade. Honorable Speaker, this is a very, very important and material amendment, Honorable Speaker, because with this House passage of government-owned enterprises, it means now we have government-owned enterprises that are going to do business and therefore compete with other businesses. And therefore, we are also bringing these ones under the purview of the Competition Authority of Kenya so that they do not go to offer unfair competition to other private businesses, Honorable Speaker. It's also going to give authority the authority will be empowered to foster strategic national, regional, international partnerships. And lastly, on this particular pillar, is going to ensure that abuse of power, the abuse of buyer power provisions restructured and strengthened under the new unfair market conduct part. Why are these matters matter for Kenya's bottom-up transformation? The bill is not just a technical law reform, it is an economic justice legislation. And as I said earlier, Honorable Speaker, this again demonstrates that Kenya Kwanza administration is implementing its manifesto law by law, step by step, policy by policy, product by product, Honorable Speaker. It's going to protect MSMEs and suppliers who are the backbone of our manufacturing and agricultural value chains. It's going to create a more predictable and fair environment that actually attracts responsible long-term investment. It's going to empower the digital hustler, the young person selling online, the content creator, the app developer, and it's going to ensure that they are not subject to platform abuse. It's going to align Kenya with global best practice by EU, DMA, and DSA thinking, but tailored to our context while protecting our sovereignty over our markets. And it's going to support the President's bottom-up reform agenda by ensuring that the growth at the top does not crush the opportunities at the bottom. Honorable Speaker, that the growth at the top should not crush the opportunities at the bottom of the pyramid, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, what are some of the questions that we may ask ourselves of this bill? Someone will ask, won't this scare away investors and big technologies and big techs? And the answer is, Honorable Speaker, on the contrary, responsible investors want clear, predictable, and fair rules. What scares capital is uncertainty and the ability of dominant players to change the game overnight. This bill is now creating a level playing field, the best magnet for sustainable investment. Someone will ask, Honorable Speaker, is this anti-business or anti-success? On the contrary, Honorable Speaker, this bill is pro-competition, but also pro-enterprise. It says, grow as big as you want through innovation and efficiency, but do not use your size or your superior position to crush the small player who has no realistic alternative. This is not success, that will be abuse. And someone else was asked, Honorable Speaker, how does this then help ordinary Kenyans, especially those in rural areas? Every time a supplier in Molo, in Mombasa, in Dagoretti, in Kikuyu, or anywhere else in this country is paid late, or has cost arbitrarily shifted onto them, or loses access to a market because a powerful buyer changed the rules. That is money that should have gone to school fees, medical bills, and local reinvestment. This bill puts that money back where it belongs, to the pockets of those ordinary Kenyans. We are not against success, Honorable Speaker. We are against success being used as a weapon. From the village market to the app store, every Kenyan household deserves a fair referee. This bill gives the small supplier a shield, not a handout. We welcome the big players. We insist they must play by fair rules. The algorithms in our digital platforms, in competition, justice in competition, Honorable Speaker, matters. Justice in competition matters, Honorable Speaker, should not require a PhD in economics or decades of court cases. A competitive Kenya is a fair Kenya, and a fair Kenya is certainly an unstoppable Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill is a statement of intent. It says that as the Kenya grows into a digital service-driven and globally connected economy, we will not leave our values of fairness, equity, and opportunity at the donor or at the door. We will carry them into every marketplace, whether physical or digital, and we will defend them with all the full face of the law. And where necessary, like now, we shall change the law to protect our small and medium enterprises, to protect our digital creators, to protect our small digital platforms, to protect our small players, to protect our small businesses from the dominance of the big ones that refuse to play by the rule. Fairness must be done by both the big companies, the big techs, and the small ones. And with that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Thank you, Honorable Kimani Kuria Kimani. You know, you second in a manner that disables every other debater from making their own contributions. But honorable members, let me now propose the question that the Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026 be now read a second time. The Honorable Samsam Chimba is recognized.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kumpongeza Mheshimiwa Kuria Kimani. Kwa kweli kama alivyosema ndugu yangu Ichungwa ni kuwa wale waliompigia kura wamepata kiongozi mahiri sana, kiongozi mwenye akili, kiongozi ambaye amefikiria wanyonge. Na kila akija katika bunge hili Mheshimiwa Spika, yale maneno ambayo anazungumza ni ya kuhusu yule Mkenya wa chini, yule ambaye anajaribu kuinuka, ambaye alikuwa anafinywa miaka za nyuma, sasa anaweza kuleta sheria ambayo inaweza kuinua Wakenya. Mimi ningewaomba tu watu wa kule kwa Mheshimiwa Kuria, mkimpoteza mmepoteza dhahabu. Mheshimiwa Spika, niweze kuunga mkono hii Competition Amendment Bill ambayo ni bill namba 4 ya mwaka wa 2026. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni dhahiri kuwa hapa katika taifa Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna watu ambao wamekuwa kiwanyanyasa wanabiashara wadogo wadogo. Mheshimiwa Spika, unapata mtu ana kampuni kubwa ama anashirikiana na wenzake wenye makampuni makubwa makubwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi tukisema Mkenya ana haki ya kuweza kuinuka kwa ile biashara yake kidogo, analima kahawa, analima korosho, na anaweza kuinuka Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini unapata makampuni makubwa makubwa siku zote walikuwa wanaweza kushikana kuwanyanyasa wale ambao ni wadogo. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia imezungumzwa wazi kuwa hata hii ndio imekuwa sababu ya chai ya Kenya ambayo ni Ketepa. Unapata sasa watu wanajificha nyuma yake, wanaeka brand ambao ni Ketepa kwa chai ambao si Ketepa, kwa sababu pengine wamefinyiliwa chini, wameshindwa kukua. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini sheria hii ambayo inaletwa katika bunge hili ni ya kumpa kila Mkenya aliyoko juu, aliyoko chini, uhaki na usawa wa kuweza kufanya biashara bila kufinyiliwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiangalia hata mfano mwingine umezungumza juu ya Safaricom, na mimi nitaka nizungumze pengine juu ya grain handlers. Mheshimiwa Spika, unapata kuna monopoly katika grain handlers Mheshimiwa Spika, ambapo sasa mkulima pengine ana mazao yake yamejaa shamba, lakini kwa vile ni mtu mmoja ambaye ndio anafanya hii biashara ya grain handling, unaona amemsimamisha mkulima kule chini, bidhaa zake ndani ya shamba zinaoza, hawezi kupata mazao mazuri kutokana na jasho alilolitoa kwenye shamba yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu kuna mtu mmoja peke yake ambaye amepewa nafasi ya kufanya hii biashara, amefinya wenzake na yeye anafanya vile anavyotaka. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiwa na competition katika hii biashara, nione pengine grain handlers huyu yuko Autoport amepata huku, so ule mkulima anachagua hii bidhaa yangu nitapeleka kwa nani, nipeleke kwa huyu niuze haraka ama nipeleke kwa huyu niuze haraka. Kwa hiyo tukiwa na ile competition pia Mheshimiwa Spika, biashara nyingi sana tutazifufua katika taifa na ushuru utakuwa unatoka vizuri Mheshimiwa Spika, ambao mazao ya taifa na uchumi wa Kenya unaweza kupanda juu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiachia mtu mmoja tu Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio maana unasikia anakwepa ushuru, mara anatafuta yule amhonge, anatafuta huyu amhonge kwa sababu yuko peke yake. Lakini ikiwa tutafungua mianya na sheria hii ambayo imeletwa leo na Mheshimiwa Kuria na kamati yake, hii sheria ni ya kuinua uchumi wa Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, unapata hata wakati huu tuko na kina ChatGPT, sijui tuko na kina Google, tuko na kina nani, wachezaji tofauti tofauti Mheshimiwa Spika, ambayo inaweza kuinua uchumi wa taifa na hata mataifa ya nje. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuna wawekezaji wengi sana ambao wanatamani kuingia katika taifa kuweza kuwekeza, lakini kwa sababu kuna wale samaki wakubwa ambao wameshika sekta fulani ni wao peke yake, Mheshimiwa Spika, hawatoi mwanya kwa sababu sheria ambayo iko wakati huu ni sheria ambayo haijatoa mwanya kwa wale wanabiashara wote kuweza kuinuka pamoja, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo hii itafungua biashara nyingi katika taifa, tutapata wengi kutoka nje wakileta bidhaa zao, na mimi sitachoka kusema mfano wa Singapore, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu nimetumia ushuru wa Mkenya kwenda kusoma, na ninashukuru taifa hili kunichukua mimi mama Mombasa kwenda kuangalia mambo ambayo yanaendelea. Zamani hapa Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika, ilikuwa majumba yanajengwa tu na wanabiashara wengine, lakini sasa hii tumepata Kenya, Wakenya wenyewe wanatoa ule mchango wao kuweza kujenga affordable housing ambayo itakuja kushika Mkenya yule na yule ambao walikuwa hawana makao waweza kupata makao. Nimeona mfano huu kule Singapore, Mheshimiwa Spika, wameweza kufanya vizuri, na kila mwananchi wa Singapore, Mheshimiwa Spika, hakuna ambaye hana makao, Mheshimiwa Spika. Hili jambo tukiweza kulifanya katika taifa ni jambo ambalo litakuza uchumi na kila Mkenya atakaa na furaha, Mheshimiwa Spika. Nikirudi pia ukiangalia katika bandari lao, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambao ni port, kila dakika 4 Singapore meli inaingia, kila dakika 4. Hiyo ni kuonyesha uchumi na competition iko ya biashara, watu wamewekewa, huyu anaingiza mali yake, huyu anaingiza mali yake, na hapo ndio wale wananchi wanapata nafasi ya kufanya biashara tofauti, na wengine wakipata mwanya wa kufanya kazi, Mheshimiwa Spika, na ule uchumi na usikia vile uko juu katika dunia ni kwa sababu walitoa mwanya na competition ya wale ambao wanaweza kuwekeza waje wekeze katika biashara tofauti, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nimeipenda bili hii kama mama Mombasa, nina mengi ya kuzungumza, lakini niweze kusema Mheshimiwa Kuria na timu yako mmefanya jambo la maana katika taifa hili, na itaingia katika kumbukumbu ya vitabu vya historia katika Kenya kuwa ulikuwa katika ile kamati ambayo iliweza kutoa mwanya kwa Wakenya wote kuweza fanya biashara bila kudhulumiwa, bila kuonewa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Sasa hii tuliona wakati ule mfano wa ile benki wakaja wakashikana, kumbe pesa pia zinaenda mataifa mengine. Kwa hiyo ilikuwa inafanya uchumi wa taifa unarudi nyuma, na niweze kusema hii ndio sababu Mheshimiwa Rais anachukiwa na watu wa Mhemu waweze kupata maendeleo na kuweza kufanya biashara bila kubughudhiwa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi nataka nimwambie Mheshimiwa Rais, hii timu ambayo uko nayo kwa wakati huu ni timu ambayo imebobea katika akili, akiwemo mama Mombasa County. Jambo lolote zuri, mimi nitakuwa nasimama katika ukumbi huu nikizungumza kwa sauti moja na kuweza kulipongeza ili liweze kufanya kazi na Kenya iendelee. Wala asione haya akasema sijui watu wanazungumza nini. Mambo kama haya ndio tulikuwa tunatamani miaka mingi ndani ya taifa, tuone kuwa Wakenya wote katika sehemu ya Kenya wanapewa haki sawa sawa. Wale ambao walikuwa wamezoea kuwa biashara hii ni yetu sisi pekee, ole wenu mara hii kuna Kuria Kimani na timu yake wamekuja na bongo ambazo ni za kisawasawa ambazo zinaweza kuinua uchumi wa Kenya. Na sisi kama kutoka Mombasa tunakuambia Mheshimiwa Rais, zidi kuchapa kazi. Mambo sijui ya tutam na ngapi, hayo ni ya Mungu. Umechaguliwa wewe, chapa kazi, hapo mbele wananchi wataamua kufuatana na kazi ambayo umeifanya. Kwa hiyo mimi nashukuru kama mama Mombasa na napongeza hii bill na naweza kuiunga mkono. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Honorable Robert Basil.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the initiator of the bill, the majority leader, Mheshimiwa Ichung'wah, for bringing this bill on Competition Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2026. Mr. Speaker, like many other speakers have said, these are very important bill, Mr. Speaker, and I have many reasons why I say so. If you look at countries like South Africa, Mr. Speaker, countries like Nigeria, Mr. Speaker, countries like the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada, and Australia, which are progressive nations, Mr. Speaker, all these countries have a competition bill. The reason why they have this bill is to regulate competition, business, literally, Mr. Speaker. And by this I mean, we are talking of digital market, Mr. Speaker. This is an area where most of the young people are actually involved, Mr. Speaker. So having a competition bill, Mr. Speaker, is to go to ensure we protect young entrepreneurs, young businessmen and women who are actually involved in digital space, Mr. Speaker. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, this particular bill is going to ensure there is no unfair competition, Mr. Speaker, which has been occurring because you find many a time when you don't protect small and more purchasing power, tends to outshine these small businesses, Mr. Speaker. And that is why business competition law is so critical, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, this bill gives the Competition Authority of Kenya some power. It gives it the tooth or the teeth to bite, Mr. Speaker, because any violator of the regulation provided under this particular law, or under this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, they are going to face punitive measures or punitive taxations or penalties that are going to be imposed by the Competition Authority of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I'm saying we are giving it power, authority to be able to do their job and to ensure there is fair competition, particularly within the digital platform, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, by having this particular competition bill, Mr. Speaker, we are going to protect consumers, local consumers, Mr. Speaker, because by ensuring all investors comply with the regulation provided under the law, then all Kenyans, the consumers of online businesses, will be protected under this particular law, Mr. Speaker. And that is the reason why, as people's representative, I stand strongly to support the amendment bill that has been brought forward by the majority leader together with the Chair for Finance, Mr. Speaker. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, this bill is going to mitigate the cartel operations. We have having cartels who have actually ensured the small business do not thrive, Mr. Speaker, by enforcing price-fixing agreements among main business vices that tend to work against small entrepreneurs, Mr. Speaker. And that's why this bill is very critical to be able to mitigate and to ensure we reduce the powers of cartels, Mr. Speaker, by having this competition law. Another important element of the bill is to ensure it eliminates abuse of dominant market positions. These are big players who have been dominating in the industry, and this particular bill is going to reduce the powers these dominating players have over the time, Mr. Speaker. And that is why fair competition will be achieved as one of the output of having this particular bill, Mr. Speaker. The other element is it mitigates bid rigging. These are some of the vices that have been going on. This bill prohibits all this, and that champions or promotes fairness within the industry, Mr. Speaker. Through having the competition bill, we are going to ensure investor confidence and transparency has been enhanced in the country, Mr. Speaker. And that is what will also enhance job creation, Mr. Speaker. Because the moment investors have trust in the country and want to come and be able to invest right here in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, that is going to generate employment opportunities, particularly for young people, Mr. Speaker. And that is going to mitigate the mushrooming unemployment that has been witnessed in the country or that has been registered in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Another important element which composes part of my summary is going to protect, as I've said, local consumers and also protect small businesses, particularly those who have been subjected to unfair trend or unfair competition, Mr. Speaker. And then it's going to ensure the youth who want to join the digital space or to join digital marketing or digital businesses have a chance to participate, Mr. Speaker. And that is what is going to support local entrepreneurship. Those with the skill will be able to apply the skills locally, Mr. Speaker, by having a bill or a regulation that we are crafting or that we are amending as a House, Mr. Speaker. As a long-term outcome, Mr. Speaker, I'm foreseeing this country generating revenue through this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, because the moment you have most players, small, medium, and big players, Mr. Speaker, all supported under the particular competition bill, Mr. Speaker, the country will be able to generate revenue through taxation, and that is important to support or to finance projects for the country and put Kenya in the next pace of economic growth, Mr. Speaker. And then lastly, Mr. Speaker, the bill will ensure watertight measures, particularly to tax vendors. Those who have been evading taxes, more so foreign investors who have been coming and evading taxes, Mr. Speaker. By having this competition bill, those tax vendors will have no chance to run away from paying taxes in the country. And that's why this particular bill also tends to tie very closely with the immediate bill that we were discussing on the business laws, which I also wanted to contribute, but unfortunately has been adjourned to the next session, and I'm sure I'll be also able to get a chance to hear my voice, Mr. Speaker. So with those few remarks, I support the amendment bill, and I'll be able to move few amendments when you come to the Committee of the Whole House. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Robert Basil. Honorable Dr. Eve Akinyobara, MP.
Speaker, and may I also at onset stand to support the bill, the amendment bill. Mr. Speaker, we have noted here that the purpose of this bill was to strengthen regulations of markets, promote fair competition, and enhance consumer protection. Mr. Speaker, while at the same time addressing the emerging challenges in modern and digital markets. Mr. Speaker, I've seen at least 6 key provisions of this amendment. Mr. Speaker, the first one is on strengthening the role of the Competition Authority. Mr. Speaker, this will enhance the powers of the Competition Authority to be able to investigate anti-competitive practices. Mr. Speaker, this will enforce compliance and impose sanctions. The second one will be on regulations of anti-competitive conduct. Mr. Speaker, this expands provisions dealing with cartels, abuse of dominance, and restrictive trade practices. Mr. Speaker, this will provide clearer standards for identifying and penalizing anti-competitive behavior. Then we also have merger controls and approvals, Mr. Speaker, which refines procedure for merger notifications and approval, including thresholds and, of course, timelines. And this aims to prevent market concentration that may harm competition. Consumer protection is also a key provision in this amendment bill, and it strengthens protection against unfair trade practices, misleading conduct, and exploitation of consumers. Then we have the digital emerging markets, Mr. Speaker, and this introduces provisions to address competition issues in digital platforms and online markets, and then including dominance and data-related concerns. And finally, Mr. Speaker, on penalties and enforcement, there will be update penalties for violation of competition law to ensure they are deterrent and proportionate. Mr. Speaker, overall, this amendment promotes fair competition and market efficiency. It also protects our consumers from exploitation and unfair practices. It strengthens enforcement against cartels and monopolistic behavior. It also addresses modern challenges, especially in the digital market. Mr. Speaker, however, there are certain challenges that I foresee in this amendment. It will increase regulation that may raise compliance costs for some businesses. Mr. Speaker, the complex enforcement may also require highly technical expertise and capacity, which some of our businesses may not have. The other challenge that I see, Mr. Speaker, is the risk of over-regulation if not applied proportionately. And finally, Mr. Speaker, businesses may face delays in merger approvals
due to the stricter scrutiny. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and once again I say that I support the amendment. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Eve Akinyi Obara, otherwise known in Homa Bay County as Kichwa Moja Degree Tatu. The Honorable John Kiarie is now recognized to contribute.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you. And what an afternoon in Parliament. And you can tell the members of Parliament who came to Parliament to get the job done for their constituencies, for their people, and in fact for this republic, Mr. Speaker. Because each and every member who contributes to this bill is looking for a way to support enterprises, to support businesses, and to support the Kenyan interests, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill seeks to align the Competition Acts to today's realities, Mr. Speaker. And the realities as they are aligning, you see that this bill has an amendment that speaks to Kenyanness, a patriotism, Mr. Speaker, that this is now Parliament very well in its place, doing that which is for the welfare of society and the just government of the Kenyan people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the competition space has been unfair. It has been a situation where the dog, the tail has been wagging the dog, where those who are supposed to be checked by the Competition Act have been the one checking the Competition Act, Mr. Speaker. A situation that is so precarious that dominance has been the order of the day in the business circuits in this country, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, when there is an effort to empower the Competitions Authority, that which has been operating as if it is a toothless dog, Mr. Speaker, we must stand to support. Mr. Speaker, the biggest reason why I stand to support this is because this is a bill that drives us towards going against the abuse of market power, the abuse of dominance, even by entities that are coming up into these new realities in our market, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, this bill brings us up to speed with the times. When the Competition Act was being done, a lot that we are seeing today had not happened, up to and including the advances in the digital market, up to and including the advances that speak to the realities of the fourth industrial revolution that has totally changed the lay of the land in business, Mr. Speaker. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, this bill, as proposed, goes against unfair market dominance, Mr. Speaker, across the markets, whether it is in the new industries of the digital market, whether it is the traditional markets as we know them. This bill does come, Mr. Speaker, to go against unfair market dominance. Mr. Speaker, I do support too, because looking at the bill and seeing the parameters that are being put for enforcement, they now give teeth to this competition authority that I had said earlier presents itself almost as if it is a toothless dog, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are four elements that compel me to stand and support this new competition amendment bill, Mr. Speaker. Number one, as I said, we are squarely in the fourth industrial revolution, and we do need digital gatekeeping, Mr. Speaker, so that as we walk into this new world, Mr. Speaker, we will be alive to the new concepts of the market and the new realities of this digital market, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is the element of preventing the abuse of power, and especially the bargaining power, Mr. Speaker, especially in a time when young Kenyans are flooding into the new industries, into the new markets of the digital market, Mr. Speaker. There is a great need for control over the abuse of power, and especially in the digital market, either by players who are local or developers who are local, but even more so, preventing the abuse by digital entities who are in the marketplace, who are importing technology into the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in this new world, there is a need for faster, smarter, and more concise enforcement, Mr. Speaker. And in the world that we are going into, Mr. Speaker, where we see that even tax collection in the country has gone digital, where sales are done digitally, Mr. Speaker, there is a need for us to have a better, faster, smarter, quicker enforcement in this space, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support because I see a great element of modern consumer protection that utilizes the technology that is available, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we know that there is a lot of misleading information in the marketplace. And if we could, through the laws that we pass, could go against this trend, Mr. Speaker, there is good reason for us to support that. A great example was given by the leader of majority here about a transaction that happened, Mr. Speaker, in the last administration, where we could see that the people who are going into this marketplace were giving misleading information, Mr. Speaker. Big players, Mr. Speaker. The example was given by the leader of majority of the merger that was the CBA bank merger, where it was very clear to the Republic, Mr. Speaker, that the information that had been given was totally misleading, Mr. Speaker. Proper and gross abuse of power and proper and gross abuse of the market forces, Mr. Speaker. And we see a place where we are coming into a new world, that the players are not just the commercial market entities. Government itself is going into the regime of government-owned enterprises, Mr. Speaker. And we shall be seeing also a new drive into regional partnerships, Mr. Speaker. And so, even as these developments are happening, we shall need modern tools for consumer protection, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is in our standing orders that when you're making a contribution, you have to declare your interest, Mr. Speaker. And I must say that I, as a member of Parliament, Dagoretti South, I'm a practitioner in the communications industry, Mr. Speaker. And I have fallen victim to predatory practices in the market, Mr. Speaker, where a dominant player abuses and flouts laws across the laws that we have passed here in Parliament, Mr. Speaker, and ends up injuring a local player in the interest of a big player in the communications industry, Mr. Speaker. And I must say that this is a matter that even came to this Parliament, Mr. Speaker, in the telephony, mobile telephony company and sector, and it was a matter that we tried to preside over using the old Competitions Act, but we could not find a place to even get the competition authority praying against small enterprises in Kenya because of their dominance of the market, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do support, because we are now leveling the playing field, bringing our Competitions Act into the modern times, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the tides in the market do change. And as tides are changing, the empowerment ought to be to the consumer, Mr. Speaker. The laws must protect the weaker party in the arrangement, Mr. Speaker. You being a lawyer, you know that if we are to pass good laws, they should be the laws that protect those who are not able to protect themselves, Mr. Speaker. And so when we move towards passing a competition amendment bill that protects the weaker parties in any commercial arrangement, Mr. Speaker, then this Parliament ought to stand up and support that. Mr. Speaker, I have to support the words that have been put here by the Honorable Leader of Majority as he was moving, Mr. Speaker, that this Parliament must have the guardrails that protect the player, the Kenyan entrepreneur, the Kenyan businesses, the Kenyan enterprises, the Kenyan innovators. And by doing that, Mr. Speaker, we are doing that which our people send us here to do. Mr. Speaker, I might not end this without congratulating the Honorable Kimani Kuria, Mr. Speaker. the finance committee is doing that which we were mandated by our people to come and do in parliament, Mr. Speaker. We are seeing the trends, even in the city where I represent, Mr. Speaker. You can see what is happening to trade in our city. That if we do not protect the local businesses, the local importers, they shall fall prey to the bigger entities that are playing, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I must say then, I do...
You need more minutes to conclude. Because,
Mr. Speaker, I will only take 1 minute to say that I do stand to support this bill.
Give KJ, don't continue before I grant you leave to do so. Give the Honorable KJ 2 minutes within which to conclude because of the solidity of his debate and contributions.
Mr. Speaker, I do thank you, and I do thank you profusely, Mr. Speaker. I was saying that the reason why I support this is the singular reason that by supporting this bill, we shall be moving towards guarding against the arbitrary changes that happen to competition rules, guided by dominant players in the market, up against the Kenyan enterprises, the Kenyan innovators, the Kenyan youth who are busy trying to eke a living out of their own innovation, out of their own personal enterprise, out of their own business acumen. And Mr. Speaker, if there was one thing that we could do as a house to protect these budding enterprises, it is to pass this competition amendment bill. Mr. Speaker, I do thank you profusely, coming from a market that is called Dagoretti, where we know that bigger players might end up dominating what were traditionally our own markets, up to and including the slaughterhouses that you see in the Dagoretti market and the small enterprises and traders who eke a living out of their small businesses. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And I hope all Kenyans are watching the proceedings this afternoon. The Honorable Rindikiri Mugambi, because they would be shocked at the level of representation we have in Parliament.
I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is very, very important. And I want to thank His Excellency the President for appointing our former Governor of Meru, Clayton Mulungi, as the non-executive chairman of the Competition Authority of Kenya. It shows confidence that the President has in this man, and more so because Meru County now is on the trajectory of good economic recovery after a long time. Mr. Speaker, I join my colleagues to congratulate the mover and the seconder of this important bill. Mr. Speaker, this bill is intended or intends to bring into force a systematic competition framework. Mr. Speaker, yes, this has never been put into focus, and this is the right time now that we have to start looking at the laws. We have to start looking at the laws, competition laws. We have to start looking at the regulations and the institutions that are entrusted with the responsibilities of protecting our consumers, our traders, our investors, our innovators. Mr. Speaker, this bill is bringing so many policies into being. Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of human rights. Mr. Speaker, we have seen situations where we are forced to purchase some products and services irrespective of the quality. Why? Because we have allowed into this country a continuous influx of product from out there. Time has come that we have to put into perspective and implement policies that will guide our customers. Mr. Speaker, I grew up in the insurance sector, and I'll tell you because for many years of being dominated by product from out there, it was becoming very difficult for the industry to grow. Until when the Kenyan insurance investors started now saying, we can come up with our own product. All what we want is proper policies and incentives to do so. Mr. Speaker, if we have to encourage innovation in this country, we must have a framework through which we can protect our business community, those ones who want to do. And once we stifle competition, it means we are stifling innovation and creativity. So this bill is trying to address the element of innovation, and I trust and believe that once the proper policies, the laws are put in place, we shall start seeing a lot of innovation. Who is the direct beneficiary of good innovation? The customers. The Kenyan youth. Those people who are only limited to a few products from somewhere. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we are saying every day we need to encourage investment. What are we doing to encourage investment? We can do so if we encourage transparency, if we encourage fair business practices. So many people would like to invest in Kenya here from out there. But if there are still existing and fair business practices, policies, then we are not going to encourage investment. Mr. Speaker, there is no limit to investment. Small-scale investors, Mr. Speaker, this bill is targeting to promote small-scale investors. Mr. Speaker, we know there's a tendency of the large companies to stifle, to strangle the upcoming investors, which is there. You try to come up with some product, but the largest pharmaceutical companies are notorious of stifling small investors in small products in the pharmaceutical sector. So this bill wants to prevent that strangling and encourage these small investors, the SMEs, who we know if we have homegrown investors, this economy is growing towards Singapore. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that we have noticed for a long time, particularly in the petroleum sector, is where petroleum companies in this country would come and sit down and try to dictate the price of fuel. It was there before, even to the attempt of trying to audit the product until the prices are adjusted according to their wishes. This competition bill is telling those kind of characters, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Mr. Speaker, you see, we have to encourage economic growth. Very important. What are we doing on this? Competition encourages productivity, correct? And job creation. But how is it going to do? What is going to happen? Mr. Speaker, if we really going to encourage Mheshimiwa Kiari to compete with me on the same playing ground, the difference will be the product that we are selling, the quality of product that we are selling, quality of service, and that's what Kenyans want now. So, Mr. Speaker, this bill is really coming to improve on that. Efficiency, long time. We will just be given because it's a product. You can take it or leave it. You can come to my office, you can come to my clinic, you can come to my supermarket if you want it or not, irrespective of how efficient in service delivery or how effective that you are. Now, this bill is addressing those inefficiencies, deficiencies, and trying to bring into fore what we believe is a platform for international competition, where now resources, a company has to put money because they have to survive tomorrow. You don't have to put there because you want to make profit. You have now to change the habit of saying, how am I going to exist tomorrow? So this bill is coming up at the right time, and I wish that it should have come yesterday. And this route to Singapore will not happen unless we encourage innovation, unless we encourage efficiency, unless we encourage investors, unless we address the issues of proper policy delivery, unless if the Kenyan consumers are well educated and groomed to understand their rights. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't have to belabor so much. This bill has come the right time. We will be putting some amendment because in as much as we are encouraging the spirit of competition, we might not overdo it. There are some sectors that need protection. There are some sectors that need protection. Our young people who are upcoming, they need a bit of protection. So we will be proposing some amendment so that it's not open-headed. We also need to encourage mergers. But again, if we are not very careful, we still have the tendency of creating monopolies again. And that's where we are trying to run away from. I will say this, it might be controversial, but Kenya Power has the monopoly of giving us power. There is no controversy about that. How I wish we could be having 4 or 5 other companies doing the same, the price would have gone down. The quality of service from Kenya Power would have gone down. The amount of taxes that we are paying through Kenya Power would have gone down. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I hope and I believe that we shall support this bill until it becomes a reality. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ndikiri, for those wise words. The Honorable Lea Sankaire, the Member of Parliament for Kajiado County.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Also rise to support the Competition Amendment Bill number 4 of 2026. And first and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate the Chairman for Finance, Mr. Kimani Kuria, for bringing this up. Thank you so much, Chairman, for bringing this. Mr. Speaker, this bill is very timely and necessary because it responds to emerging economic realities and strengthen Kenya's legal framework to support a competitive, innovative, and consumer-friendly economy. Mr. Speaker, I think this is the best Africa have been victims of, Mr. Speaker, have been victims because they've not been able to do business because this bill is against unfair business, designed to guarantee that the hard-working Kenya entrepreneur and the everyday consumer are fully protected from corporate exploitation, Mr. Speaker. We have seen that there have been a lot of corporate exploitation in this country and that small traders and entrepreneurs, Mr. Speaker, are not able to do business in this country. And this afternoon, we are going to unveil that potential for these traders, Mr. Speaker, and that each and every entrepreneur and trader in this country is able to compete fairly in this field, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the enactment of this bill, Mr. Speaker, I see that it will promote fairness in the marketplace, Mr. Speaker, which has been a thing of a few. That space has been dominated by few. That space has been dominated by corporate business people. And Mr. Speaker, upon enactment of this bill, that will be a thing of the past, and there will be fair competition in the marketplace. Mr. Speaker, this bill will also protect consumers from exploitation and deceptive trade practices. Mr. Speaker, some of these traders have to sell their products in very low prices to big traders, Mr. Speaker, who sell at double or triple prices just because they have a name and these small traders don't have a name. Most of the time, the small traders have actually legit products, but because they don't have a name,
name, and the space is not competitive, Mr. Speaker. They are left without option but to sell their product at very low prices to the people that have a name, and they can trade them twice or thrice the amount that they buy from them, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill will support small and medium enterprises against unfair market conduct. It will also strengthen regulation of digital markets and emerging technologies, Mr. Speaker. It will enhance investor confidence and market transparency and align Kenyans' competition framework with international practices. Mr. Speaker, this afternoon I'm very happy to be part of the people that actually contribute to this bill and make sure that these traders have a fair place in this country, and that we raise up our traders and raise up the people of this country so that they can do business fairly. With this, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill.
And the nation needs to know you are also the chairperson of the Kenya Women Parliamentarians. Thank you very much. The Honorable Julius Olesunkuli, MP, is now recognized.
And I've listened to very eloquent speeches from the leader of majority, from our friend Kimani, Honorable Kimani, and from my good scout friend, eloquent and very dedicated member, Kiarie. And now following directly from our member from Kajiado, I think there was no tribalism involved. We just happened to be together here. But Mr. Speaker, this trend today is actually a very international one, because now the world is trying to rethink this thing about trade. Now, this bill, when I look at it as a lawyer, performs two functions. One, it tries to seal it under what we call the mischief rule. It actually locks out some of the weaknesses that we have had in trading in Kenya, as well as making sure that we do not...
Honorable Kimani Kuria, would you approach the Speaker if you are not stepping out? You may proceed.
Yeah, it deals with the mischief rule as well as dealing with the new situation in the world. And the new situation, Mr. Speaker, is to prohibit unfair trading practices. Now, the most important thing that we see nowadays, when we look at the internet, is that in the trading world, there is a development of dark patterns that are emerging. When somebody wants to spoil the trading environment is a very, very important aspect. But when you want to spoil it, there are things you can do in order to make sure that you win. And this addresses both the superior seller as well as the superior buyer. Both of these are addressed, and I'm very happy that Article 40 of this particular act addresses the question of the superior buyer. Because, Mr. Speaker, many people would think that monopolies are the only problem we have nowadays, but we have more problems than monopolies. Monopolies are very bad, and I'm very happy that Honorable Ndigiri has joined me in thinking that we should do something about Kenya Power and Lighting, because I think monopolies are not good. But first, Mr. Speaker, if I may address some of the dark patterns that this act addresses, is first of all, not that this act, but generally that the principle behind it. You know, there are people who say that when you don't want to buy my products, then you are a very bad man. There's a way in the internet in which buyers are shamed if they reject an offer. And then that makes a person shy to reject even a bad offer. And the law now has to protect people like that. But the one that has been addressed under Article 3, Article 6, is this issue of hiding the alternatives. You know, when a person puts a product in the market and does not tell you that there are other alternatives or hides the other alternatives, that is also an unfair practice in the trade. When you buy something, the whole information should be at the table so that you know that this is just one of the alternatives that we have. The other thing that is a dark pattern is this thing that when you buy something, then there are other things which ought to be optional but are made to look like they are part of you must buy this together. For instance, somebody gives you a commodity and says you must also buy insurance and says that there is something else that you need to buy. So what ought to be an alternative, an optional alternative, becomes part of the commodity you buy, because the person who is selling to you is a man who says, or a person who says, take it or leave it. There is a superior seller. So the law should in fact address the question of stopping any seller from trying to manipulate the market by adding his own other things there. Or he might tell you that if you want to buy these things of mine, then you must also use priority shipping, which costs more. So these dark patterns need to be addressed by a competition law. And in fact, we will be proposing some of the amendments to make sure that this particular aspect is stronger in this thing. There are other dark patterns, for instance, like telling you that the clock is ticking, or you buy this thing because if you don't buy it now, the clock is ticking. There is actually a deadline which has been created for purposes of manipulating the market. Or giving you artificial stock warning, saying these are the last things that this is the last stock. This might appear to be small when you talk about them, but in the end, they are the things that make people engage in trade in a very unfair way. Another one that needs to be addressed even more by this act is this thing that it is easy to enter into a deal, but it is difficult to come out of it. And to create a situation which is like a valve, you can enter into it, but coming out of it, you have to pay a lot more. Somebody will tell you that if you want to come out of this deal, then you have to pay me this particular amount. And you sign because you have no choice but to do it. The law should address this so that people have a very fair way of trading. Mr. Speaker, I have looked at this thing about the superior buying, and particularly addressed by Article 40A. And in Kenya, this is actually pertinent, and I'm happy that this is being addressed. If you are selling to a superior buyer, a buyer who is more superior to you, he can delay your payment. And there's a lot of situation in Kenya where people supply, but they are not paid. Now, this is not fair for trade. Or some people, and this is addressed in this article, have the power to unilaterally terminate the contract. They can decide they are no longer buying, even if you have signed the contract, and there is nothing you can do about it. Or it is still the same, either termination or threat of termination. So every time the buyer wants this thing on his own terms, and we would like to eradicate these little things so that they do not affect trade within our country. Sometimes the buyer retains the right to refuse your goods, to reject them for no particular purpose. That should be penalized under the law. People should not use their advantage to suppress others when it comes to trading. And the other problem, and I see that is very common and is also being addressed by this law, is that you all the time transfer the risk to the buyer, to the seller. You say, okay, these things are there, but if it does not work, the risk will be borne by the seller. And you know very well that the seller is in a position of disadvantage. This competition law should address these issues, and they should address the issue of superior bargaining, so that bargaining does not become bargaining from one side. Mr. Speaker, I also see they say that you must that this is subjected to Fair Administration Act, which includes fair hearing. Now, after you have put all these conditions that must be met, and then you subject it to this thing called Fair Administration Action, including hearing, you are creating a situation where the superior guy will go to court and will demand to be heard all the time. I think it is very important that we delete that section so that we don't take away from the right hand what the left hand has given. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support.
The Honorable Julius Unkuli, I hope the chair of the committee in charge of finance and national planning, the Honorable Kuria Kimani, listened to you on that last part. Because the right to fair administrative action as prescribed under Article 47 does not include fair hearing as being erroneously represented here. You go that direction, you will be tied to oral hearings, cross-examination, people hiding in hospitals, and you're being required to adjourn until they come. And those with superior bargaining positions will continue to hurt others. It is sufficient that administrative action is expeditious, reasonable, and good reasons are given at the end of them. Yes, Honorable Kimani Kuria.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, this is the advantage of having different skill sets in the House, Honorable Speaker. And once I've listened to the great words by the Polish lawyer, Honorable Nkuli, and also the explanation from yourself, I'm convinced that we must make sure that this particular proposal is deleted during the committee of the whole House, so that again the small players that we're seeking to protect are not subjected to again long court processes by the big boys, which you're hoping that they will be fair to this small Honorable Speaker. Because in as much as we want to respect the rights of everyone in terms of going through all the constitutional processes in our courts, we all agree that they have been abused for a long time. Where the big players are able now to frustrate the small players by just going to starting by the small claims court, then they go away all the way. And by the time they get to Supreme Court, the small business already died or is already on receivership, has been declared bankrupt. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for pointing that out.
I thank you, Honorable Chair. Mheshimiwa Badibadi Twalib, mjumbe wa Jomvu, ametambulika kuongea kwa mswada huu.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Kaluma, kwa kunipatia nafasi hii na kwa kusema kwa nimetambulika na mimi kuchangia katika mswada huu. Mimi nataka kusema kitu ya kwanza ya kuwa naunga mkono mswada huu, kwa sababu mswada huu una mambo mengi sana mazuri ambayo tukiyaangalia yataweza kuboresha biashara katika sehemu zetu hapa nchini Kenya. Kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu wa Competition Amendment Bill tunauona kuwa ni mswada ambao unaleta njia ya kuweka usawa katika mambo ya ushindani. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, mambo kama haya tuliyazungumza nyuma, na leo Mheshimiwa Spika nataka tena kusema kuwa katika ushindani wa kibiashara, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni lazima uweko ndio biashara iweze kunoga. Leo Mheshimiwa Spika, unaweza kuona wale wafanyabiashara wakubwa ambao tunawaita big players, Mheshimiwa Spika, unaona wanathibiti katika mambo ya biashara na kuweza kuwatoa nje wale ambao ni wafanyabiashara wanaokuja. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nakumbuka vizuri sana wakati nilipokuwa na ndugu yangu Mheshimiwa Kiarie tukienda katika eneo bunge lake la Kuleregoreti,
na tukiangalia tutastawisha vipi katika wafanyikazi wadogo wadogo wawe na wao wataweza kutambulika. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, imekuwa ni ngumu kwa sababu ukiangalia leo wafanyikazi wale wanawekewa viwango vya bei na wale ambao ni wakubwa, yani wanawafinya. Na ndio maana pia Mheshimiwa wewe Kiarie alipokuja mahali kunaitwa Bangladesh kule kwangu, tulizunguka na yeye kuangalia mama mboga, tukazunguka na yeye kuangalia watu wanauza samaki na kila kitu. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, haya ni mambo muhimu ambayo bunge hili lahitaji kuangalia wataishughulikia mambo gani. Mambo matatu muhimu Mheshimiwa Spika ambayo yanakumbana na mswada huu. La kwanza ni masoko ya kidijitali, ambayo katika masoko ya kidijitali mswada huu umeangalia kuwa Competition Authority of Kenya isiweze kudhibiti tabia ya majukwaa ya kidijitali, jinsi ya kuangalia hali itakuwa namna gani. Ni muhimu iwapatie space wanaotaka kufanya biashara zao kwenye social media, wanaotaka kufanya biashara zao mbalimbali, ni kuangalia namna gani na wao watajiona wako sawa. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nikiwa hapo unaona mfanyikazi yeye ndiyo mwenye kampuni kubwa, alafu anaonekana anapawa monopoly of power. Yeye ndio mwenye kufanya kitu fulani, hakuna watu wengine ambao wanaweza kufanya ile kitu. Mtu akitaka kuenuka wanamzamisha chini. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii ni mfano kama vile yule Bob Marley ambaye alikuwa mwimbaji maarufu wa kule Jamaica akisema kill them before they grow. Kwa hivyo kabla watu hawajaenuka, hawa wafanyikazi wakubwa wanawashukurutisha kuwasukuma chini wale wadogo wadogo. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mombasa leo kuna hoteli kama Waisans, Voyager, Flamingo, Pride Inn na nyingine. Waweza kuona kuna wafanyikazi ambao wanapeleka vyakula kule kama samaki, kama kamba na kama vitu vingine. Na wakati huo kuna mashirika ya mtaani kama kule kwangu Jomvu, shirika linaitwa Majestic. Leo wameenda baharini kwa Wangwa kule, wameweka vitoma vya maji, wanakuza kamba, wanakuza samaki, wanakuza kila kitu. Na tukiangalia faida ile wanakosa market, na market ile wanapotaka kuipeleka kujienua katika prawns, kwa vile yeye ni mfanyikazi ambaye amechukua vijana tu kufanya nao kazi kutoka mtaani, anawekewa bei. Wataka hii chukua, hutaki hii basi wewe nenda zako. Haifai namna ile. Lazima bei ya wengine inavyochukuliwa katika kufanya biashara na wengine pia wawe vile vile. Kwa sababu huyu kijana anaitwa Musyoki katika pale hiyo shirika lake la Majestic ameandika vijana wengi, vijana wamejaa. Na sisi tuamini katika biashara, we believe in progression, yani tunaamini kwenda mbele kwenye biashara. We don't believe in retrogression, hatuamini kurudi nyuma kwenye biashara. Kwa hivyo ikiwa atakwenda mbele, ina maana kuna vijana ambao pia na wao watakuwa na vitoma vyao na wataandika pia watu wao, lakini lazima walindwe. Pia mswada huu umeangalia sana katika mambo ya ugunduzi wa makateli, ambao ndio hayo ambao mimi nimeweza kusema. Na pia jambo jingine imeangalia pia ushindani katika zabuni za umma. Unaona leo kwa vile makampuni wengine ni wakubwa, wanawazuia watu wengine katika ushindani wa kupata zabuni. Leo watu wanakwenda, leo watu wanarudi, lakini hakuna njia ambao wanaweza kujisaidia. Mimi mfano leo Mheshimiwa Spika, nimekuwa kwa Ministry of Education asubuhi, ambapo nimepatana na msichana anaitwa Tiffany. Tiffany nilimpa moyo, nikamwambia kama watu nikamuuliza nani ni general supplier, kama watu ambao wanaomba kazi katika ministry, awe na imani hata yeye anaweza kupata kama vile wengine wanavyopata. Na mimi nimempa moyo huo Tiffany, niko na imani ikiwa msaada huu utapita, haitaruhusisha peke yake katika wale makampuni wakubwa peke yao, lakini hata wale wadogo wadogo ndio watakaoweza kuenuka. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna jambo moja tumelizungumza huko ministry tukiwa na marafiki zetu. Watu leo unamuuliza mtu maisha ni vipi, akwambia uchumi wa Ruto unaharibika. Hakuna cha uchumi wa Ruto unaharibika. People need to work. Watu ni lazima wafanye kazi, na katika kufanya kazi ni lazima to create a conducive environment for them to work. Yani maana yake ni kwa kuwa lazima tuweke mazingira mazuri kama haya ambayo tunataka kuweka leo, ili kila mmoja kujiamini kuwa ataweza kufanya biashara, aweze kupata pesa, aweze kutajirika. Kwa sababu rais yoyote utakayemchukua, hakuna siku rais utaamka usubuhi akutilie pesa kwenye mfuko akwambie hizi zinaanguka. Hata Mungu asema watu wafanye kazi. Kwa hivyo sisi la muhimu tutaendelea kufanya kazi, na katika ushindani huu tuwaambia pia wale wenye makampuni, mfano mimi Jomvu natoka kwenye industrial area ambayo ina viwanda vingi sana. Hawa pia wenye viwanda ni muhimu waangalie watoto wetu ili waweze kuandika katika kazi, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeiona historia. Kuna mfanyikazi ambaye alikuwa tajiri, alikufa kule Mombasa akiitwa TSS aliandikwa kazi ya udereva na kampuni ikiitwa Murjan. Yeye aliweza kuenuka kutoka udereva mpaka kanua lori la kwanza mpaka kawa tajiri na that empire ambayo alikuwa nayo. Kwa hivyo hawa wengine pia waandike vijana wetu kazi, ili kuona ushindani wa kuwa wao ni matajiri peke yao uweze kuisha. Wao si watu ambao waliumbwa, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwenye matumbo ya mama yao kwa kuja duniani kwa matajiri peke yao. Hata wengine wanaweza kuwa matajiri. Na mimi naamini kama kupigania haki za watu wetu ni kutokamana na sauti ambazo tunazizungumza hapa bungeni. Mheshimiwa Kaluma, mimi nakupongeza sana kwa ile kazi ya empowerment ambayo unaifanya. Hata katika ile sehemu umetualika wiki ijayo ili kwenda kusimamia mambo ya empowerment ya kina mama, na barua umefikisha kwa kila mbunge. Twakwambia kuwa tutakuja kukuunga mkono ili wale kina mama tuwatoe kutoka kwa practice ya kwa kuwa wao hawezi kuendelea, wanaofaa kuendelea ni wengine. Kwa hivyo nakushukuru Mheshimiwa Spika, na nashukuru sana mimi Badi Twalib aka kijana mwepesi Garang di Mabiori mzee Fulangenge kwa nimepata nafasi pia kuchangia katika mswada huu. Asante Mheshimiwa Kaluma.
Asante sana, umeoa kama Fulangenge, kijana wa baba, siku hizi rafiki wa Waziri Joho. Yeah, asante sana. Yeah, thank you very much. The Honorable Esther Passaris has been a dominant player in street lighting. You are recognized to contribute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the Competition Amendment Bill of 2026. The bill comes at a defining moment in our country's economic journey. Just a few days ago, during the World MSME Day celebrations, His Excellency the President launched the revised MSME Policy 2026 and reminded us that micro, small and medium enterprises are the backbone of our economy. They employ millions of Kenyans, drive innovation and create opportunities where formal employment cannot. If we are serious about growing MSMEs, then we must also be serious about protecting them from unfair competition and abuse by those who hold greater market power. Honorable Speaker, as the United States prepares to celebrate 250 years of independence in a few days' time, there is an important lesson for us. The American dream did not emerge by chance. It was built on the institutions that protected private enterprise, rewarded innovation, upheld the rule of law, and ensured that entrepreneurs had the opportunity to compete. Businesses invest where markets are opened. Rules are predictable, success depends on merit rather than monopoly. Similarly, when we look at Singapore, we admire not only its infrastructure, but also its governance. Singapore became one of the world's leading economies because investors had confidence in its institutions, contracts were respected, regulations were predictable, and competition was protected. Kenya also has a dream. We want to become globally competitive, a globally competitive economy that creates jobs for our youth, empowers our women, attracts investments, grows local enterprises into regional and global champions. This bill can help us move in that direction. I support the provision that seeks to regulate digital markets because our economy has changed. Today, a small business in Kibra, Gikomba, Isli, or Kayole can sell products across the country through digital platforms. If those platforms become unfair or dominant players abuse their positions, innovation is stifled and small businesses are pushed out. I also support measures that address abuse of buyer power because too often our farmers, suppliers, manufacturers, and small traders are forced into unfair contracts simply because they don't have an alternative market. However, Mr. Speaker, I caution on two important issues. First, the definition of superior bargaining position must be clear and precise. Business negotiations are rarely between equals. One party often has greater experience, capital, and negotiating strength. That alone should not become a criminal offense. The law must distinguish between legitimate commercial negotiations and actual exploitation. Ambiguity creates uncertainty, and uncertainty discourages investments. Secondly, while I support the strengthening of the Competition Authority of Kenya, greater power must go hand in hand with greater accountability. Administrative penalties, enforcement actions, regulatory decisions must be guided by due process. Transparency and effective right of appeal. Investors, whether local or foreign, need confidence that regulatory decisions will always be fair, objective, and consistent. Honorable Speaker, competition policy is not just about economics. It's about justice. It's about ensuring that a woman-owned business has the same opportunity to succeed as an established corporation, that a young innovator with a brilliant idea is not locked out of the market, that a person with disability who runs businesses can compete fairly, and that consumers enjoy better quality, lower prices, and greater choices. If we create markets that reward innovation rather than dominance, integrity rather than influence, and productivity rather than privilege, then we will build an economy where everyone works, and it works for everyone. Let this bill be remembered not simply for the amendment to our laws, but as part of Kenya's journey to become a more competitive, inclusive, and prosperous economy. Let us create an environment where businesses do not succeed because of who they know, but because of the value they create. With those remarks, I support the bill. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Just before you take your seat, Honorable Pasaris, you've made a very important point, which I want to draw the attention of the members to, because the matter of administrative penalties are required to abide by the requirements of fair administrative action before they are imposed. And those requirements, honorable members, Honorable Pasaris, you can take your seat. That is Article 47, if I may read. Every person has the right to fair administrative action that is expeditious, efficient, lawful, reasonable, and procedurally fair. That is what the due process you're talking about. And then if a right to a fundamental freedom of a person has been or is likely to be adversely affected by admin action, the person has the right to be given written reasons for the action. So even for the admin penalty, there must be written reasons. And then Parliament shall enact legislation to give effect to the right to fair administrative action and shall provide for the review of administrative action by a court. So this decision also can go through the court system up to the Supreme Court, so that the right of parties to, fair treatment, whether or not their position is superior, is securely safeguarded. And so I rightly, appreciate your contribution and your deep understanding of that area. The Honorable Frederick Ikana, also known as Wakili in his constituency, is now recognized to make his contribution.
Also known as Msatsoyo in my constituency. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Msatsoyo means that is the man. I rise to support the competition amendment bill, and of course I'm supporting this on account of various aspects that I've looked at it. The first aspect being that there is need to protect small players, especially small businesses, against monopolistic tendencies of the big players, and also against what we would refer to as cannibalistic tendencies. This bill is coming at a very, very, very critical time, where as the Kenya Kwanza government, together with our broad-based partners, we are working on implementing the promises that we made in our manifesto. And one of the key promises was to ensure that we promote and support smaller players and smaller, those that had been looked down upon in our economic system. Mr. Speaker, sir, I call for the enhanced and strengthening of the competition authority, so that even as we look at fair administrative fines and practices, we ensure that as we consider those that breach the various regulations that have been put in place, the penalties will be commensurate with the offenses that will have been committed, and also that we enable smaller businesses and smaller people in practice to get fair taxation by also looking at our various ways of taxation regimes. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Order, honorable members, is that the way to bow when you're exiting the plenary? The Honorable Rosa Buyu and the Honorable Rindikiri Mugambi. Why are you behaving like you're standing by some aisle other than a parliamentary aisle? Yes, thank you. The Honorable Ndindi Nyoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and I'm happy to be back. And I hope, Honorable Kimani Kuria and all the members, you know that I have been carrying a lot of your responsibility and liability out there. I hope as a comrade and as a friend, that is on a right note. It doesn't need any point of order, Honorable Speaker.
What is out of order, Honorable Kuria Kimani?
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro is trying to be clever when coming back to this house by saying he has been carrying our liabilities. My abilities are the only liabilities I have with my circle here. I have no any other liabilities. So the Honorable Member must substantiate which liabilities he has been carrying on our behalf, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Ndindi Nyoro.
I am sure
you need to be much more explicit in some places.
Honorable Speaker, you know it has not been a very exciting period for the last many days, but we are always happy to carry the responsibility that we have as leaders, and we ought to do what we must, both inside the house and outside. Many times we are human beings, you have to balance many things, but that is not to say that I ought not to have been here when we did the vote of the finance bill. I ought to have been here, and of course voted towards my arguments, which of course, as you know, I was not in support throughout. But Honorable Speaker, that also reminds us that our responsibility is beyond our constituencies. That yes, I am a member of parliament for Kiharu, but sitting in the National Assembly, you carry the aspirations of the Kenyans who are in every part of this country. And I want to appreciate all Kenyans for the feedback that I got from Wajir, from Homa Bay Town, from one of my favorite counties called Marsabit. All the feedback that I got, and especially out of that, I take it. It makes me a better leader to be present here and also to be present out there so that we continue to make policies that affect the Kenyan people in the right way. And Honorable Speaker, therefore, I want to give a few comments and contribution towards this bill that is before us. what grows our economy, Honorable Speaker, and what has grown all other economies across the world is the private sector. And the private sector, when you want to look at how you actually want the private sector to behave, you look at various scenarios. There is a situation or in countries where what is done by the private sector is actually done by government. The other cadre is where you have very stringent regulation. And the other cadre, Honorable Speaker, is what we have, what we usually have in many countries, what is called deregulation, where there is a lot of laissez-faire that happens when it comes to the running of businesses and the private sector. But, Honorable Speaker, when the economy grows and the performance of the economy generally, you look and zoom in the previous economies that we can refer to and the many economies that we can refer to that has grown. I'm using the name previous based on the growth. You realize that, Honorable Speaker, there is a lot that we can actually allocate and give credit to the deregulation and also to the dominant government that does business, ceding that space to the private sector. The opening up of China during the reign of Deng Xiaoping is what we credit as having been the basis of the Chinese growth. The basis of South Korean growth has all its credit based on deliberate policies of government to spur the private sector. Because the private sector is the one that has the agility and the versatility to grow the economy. We have also seen many countries that have tried to bear the weight of planning the economy in detail. Planning, therefore, meaning also involving and having a strong arm of government in the running of businesses. There are very few success stories, Honorable Speaker, if there are any. And therefore, what I'm trying to say is that we must always give us an environment where business and entrepreneurship grows, and in that growth, therefore, catapults the economy. Honorable Speaker, as we talk about that, it is also important to look at which are the bottlenecks that lead to a deceleration of economic growth when it is actually based on the private sector. Honorable Speaker, I want to give a scenario so that I give that point. And I want to use a scenario of a country like Nigeria, because the point I want to drive home is the point of patronage and where we mix so much politics with the private sector in business. In Nigeria, for example, we have very many people domiciled within Nigeria, indigenous Nigerians, who are doing very well for the economy. To cite just two, for example, one we know called Aliko Dangote. Out of the thriving of the business of the private sector, he started by doing business by importing commodities. And he spent the same money he got as profit in making it as capital to build a manufacturing base and a manufacturing capacity in the products he was importing. Namely, for example, sugar and cement. It is the same profit that he actually used as capital to build a refinery. Honorable Speaker, this shows that the growth of the economy is totally influenced by one thing called entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, Honorable Speaker, is not just about Dangote. It is about many other Africans and the global citizens who have done very well in changing the economy using the profits they get out of their private sector businesses, Honorable Speaker. The point is that when we detach business and politics, we are able to have the right economic incentives where the people in business are entrepreneurs. So when they get profits, this profit is not usually a possession. It becomes capital for the next venture, therefore perpetuating a virtuous cycle where this profit becomes capital, this capital generates more profit, and on and on. And this opens up the economy for growth, it opens up employment opportunities, it opens up innovation, it opens up ingenuity. But Honorable Speaker, and I'm repeating because this is what I've seen is one of the most dangerous bottlenecks we have in Kenya. When patronage drives so much, and therefore those in leadership are still the ones doing business, of course, by making very good up a scenario. Businesses can think new ideas, act as part of the economic growth, Honorable Speaker. The other thing that I want to cite is that even as we talk about regulation in terms of businesses, it is also important for us to also give a breathing space to the businesses, so that even as we regulate, we make sure that regulation only works to spur business and also works to protect the customers. But when you now start having over-regulation, it hurts both the businesses and also hurts the customers. And there is always important, it's always important to find the right balance when it comes to regulation, because it is through regulation that we also streamline competition. As I come to the finish, Honorable Speaker, as we talk about businesses, because competition is also about business, it is important that we know that economies majorly grow out of industrialization. If we look at the segmentation of our economy, we realize we do a lot in terms of primary production, and especially in agriculture. Many people are employed there. But then you shift and jump industrialization and manufacturing, and then 65% of our economic activity in terms of wealth actually happens in the service industry. It means in between there, Honorable Speaker, which accounts for around 18% of our GDP, there lies manufacturing and there lies industrialization with all their value chains, including logistics, transportation, storage, and the rest. The fact of the matter is that that is the most productive area that you can have in an economy, and it is the one that creates a synergetic environment. It is important, Honorable Speaker, that as we grow the segment of the primary production and the service industry, that we know that there is no many economies we can cite that have leapfrogged or jumped industrialization and manufacturing and ended up creating quality jobs for the citizenry. Therefore, it is important for us to zero in there, lower the cost of energy, which is a major input. Most of manufacturing is dominant in terms of consumption of energy, and also upscale the skills that are needed and create an environment robustly that spurs industrialization, because it is out of there that the bigger solution of our economy lies. With those many remarks, I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. Honorable members, let us be upstanding. Honorable members, on the time being 7:01 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Wednesday, the first day of July 2026 at 9:30 a.m.